1, 2, 3. I think we have audio now. Have you got audio now? Is that working? Hopefully it is. Let me know if you can hear that. No sound still. No sound. Bloody hell. Sorry, we might be lagging behind a little bit. I do see sound on my end, so it might be just starting to come out on your end at this stage. And still no sound. 209, so that's live, no sound. Weird. Yet I can see it on this end. Yay! Sound! We got it! Congratulations. Welcome to the Sunday service. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened there. Between OBS and the new YouTube streaming system, because there is a new system on YouTube, which I tried to use this morning, and it completely buggered the entire thing. It didn't work at all. So it wouldn't go live for me. It wouldn't do anything it wanted to do. So I had to kind of resort to the old system, but the old system even seemed to have problems now. So now we're back up and running. It is the Sunday service. It is 10 past 2, so I'm 10 minutes late. I actually started on time, but you couldn't see that. Obviously, you couldn't see me starting on time. Today, it's all about Tesla, VW ID3, the Frankfurt Motor Show, electric cars in general. When's your time to buy one? When should you buy one? Should you bother your arse buying one at all? Maybe you should just leave it alone and not go next or near them. Or possibly you're an old-fashioned type person. You want to keep your classic car on the road, or your 10-year-old or 12-year-old stuff, or whatever it is. We'll go through some of the boys that are here and some who have waited. There's already 50 of you in the room. Thank you very much. Click the like button if you wouldn't mind. If you've never seen this before, click the subscribe button, because it happens every Sunday. MoAV is here. MoAV asked a question before we even started. What do you think of the Subaru Lineartronic transmission? Run a mile is what I can think of at the moment. I've seen multiple errors, multiple problems. When those transmissions get old, they get jerky and they get weird and they don't go right. They're very expensive to fix. Now, Subaru did extend the warranty on those transmissions, but I'm not sure it actually covers everything that you're going to find later on in life. So I would stay away. It would just drive me bananas, because it goes with the Boxer engine, and the Boxer engine is notorious for eating fuel on you. Zdenko's in the house. Eric Rocher's in the house. Andy has come in as well. Byron Masters asked, have I come across the Renault Talisman? Seems a really nice car. I live in England, and I'm fairly sure they aren't available for sale here. Great videos this week. They are not for sale in the UK or Ireland. They are for sale in kind of southern France. France in general, but you do see them more southern France, kind of more Spain as well, funny enough. It's a very handsome car. I'm not sure why they don't sell it. Could be the name, Talisman, doesn't work out well or something. But I quite like the look of the car. It's basically sort of a Renault Megane chassis with the general Renault engines in them, and that's kind of it. I'm not sure why they didn't sell it here. There's probably ones they don't sell over there that they do sell here. Cross 13 has arrived. Andy McAfee is here, who I had a great conversation with earlier on. Arse about face. Hey Bob, please don't mention the football. Already sick of hearing about it. I'm neither side, so I couldn't care less, apart from the obnoxious amount of celebration that went on last night. But other than that, I don't know anything at all about football, so that's it. I'm here as well. I've actually typed something. Look, I used my fingers and I beat out a little message. Put the money in the meter, Bob. Yes, I know. He's feeding a hamster. The hamster is being murdered, and I'm trying to power the entire house from a Model X outside the door. That didn't work either. Someone say a prayer. It says Lantern Jesus. What's that? Lantern Jesus. That's a good name. Paul O'Connor's here as well. Cross says lots of electric news. Manufacturers closer to getting EV right now, that many are putting the money into dedicated platforms instead of compliance cars and science experiment. Thankfully, compliance. So, anyone who's not sure, a compliance car is where they take a Volkswagen Golf and they stick an electric engine in it, just to comply with some regulation or other, just to have one there, just to say they offer an electric car. Nothing particularly wrong with that. The e-Golf is probably one of my more favourite stepping stone cars, because it's just a Golf, and a Golf is a really sensible 5-door hatchback. It's a bit of sport as well, and they put in electric motors into it, but the range is a bit short. Whereas a full-time electric car is more like that little Honda you've seen, or the ID3 that's coming. These are ones that are being released to be just an electric car, or electric range of cars. All the manufacturers all the big manufacturers at the Frankfurt Motor Show were showing their wares. Not Renault, weirdly enough. I went into the Renault stand, which just amounted to being a room upstairs, to see the Capture Hybrid. didn't really amount to much, to be honest with you. They were all sitting around very quietly in their own little room in the middle of nowhere. I just thought it was kind of weird. But certainly Mercedes were all outgunning with the EQ range. Volkswagen had electric pretty much everything. Again, apart from Skoda. Skoda was just showing their hybrid cars. So it was kind of weird as well. I thought Skoda, the Simply Clever thing, should be really leading the way. I'm sure they will next year. But there's so many manufacturers now putting their oar out there to be in electric cars that we're going to get better choice, and I reckon this will result in better competitive prices because more people will be trying to get more sales, and they're just going to have to compete a little bit on price. I'm still not saying to buy anything between now and Christmas. Honestly, I'm saying to hold on, unless you're buying used, of course. I would say to hold on until you're much closer to the middle of next year. By then, I think you're going to see an awful lot more cars on the market, more different types of cars you can choose from. Big, small, more useful, less useful. There's a lot of them around at the moment. Jerry in Wicklow says, amazing how VW came from nowhere to one of the leaders in a few months and then pushed, insert conspiracy theory here. Just, I tell you, the really big point out is that Volkswagen really did cheat, and the German car industry is in deep doo-doo at the moment. They've lost so much money and so many sales, and the German public are not interested really in this electric car, even though they're saying they're not. And the German car industry is the second biggest, or maybe even the biggest industry in Germany. So big that the Prime Minister of Germany was at the Frankfurt Motor Show. They closed down big stands and everything for her to walk around, and she got the mic up and she was talking away about the German car and how good it was. And they said categorically that they were not going to close off areas of the country to cars, and they really are pushing ahead with it. But in the background of all of this, the whole world went, well, we want electric cars. Where are your electric cars, Germany? And Germany just wasn't ready. But the story behind that means that Volkswagen instantly bought shares in basically every battery manufacturing company in the world. Top table shares. I'm not talking about a few shares, I'm talking about a lot of shares in a lot of companies, which means Volkswagen controls the interest of an awful lot of electric battery manufacturers. Now, there'll be more, of course. There'll be more Chinese ones that will come into the market. The whole Chinese market, not the whole, but a lot of the Chinese market now demands electric. Very much so. And when the Chinese government say that they're going to make something electric, they're going to do it now. They'll want it in a month, not in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years or 2030 or any of that crap. But now, they want it now. That's the way the Chinese government work. It's a communist country. So when they say it's going to happen, it just happens, and that's the end of it. They'll just march over whatever stops them making it happen. So much so, Carl Thomas Newman, who used to be the managing director of the Opel Group, the whole group, left Opel because, this is before they got sold, because he wanted to start up an electric, he wanted to move fast with electric, and they weren't moving, and so he left. Multiple other manufacturers lost personnel to Chinese manufacturing and to startup manufacturing and to electric car manufacturers because they just weren't ready for it. So the German car industry is in deep trouble, and I mean real, proper, honest to God trouble. The next 10 years is going to really hurt them or cure them. I'm not sure which one it's going to do, but they're definitely going to survive. They're not going to die off or anything, but they'll be a changed group. It'll be a changed thing. Doesn't mean what we're doing is right. It means they're reacting to market forces, which is the only way people can react, is to react to market forces. Cross says prices right as the battery options. I'm encouraged that VW is treating the car as a do or die car, which it is, but we'll have to see if they can hit the production volumes. LG is going to struggle. They're all going to struggle. Production volumes is a very big thing, and it's kind of an industry side stuff. It's not something that the average punter thinks about. The only way you hear about production volumes is when you walk into a dealership and you go, I want an ID3, and he goes, you won't see one of them until next September. That's what production volumes matter. That's where it comes out of. So you can have all kinds of little things that are having an effect on production, and it used to be, say, a tire shortage or compressors or windscreen wipers or windshields or whatever it was that would slow it down. This is at the beginning. Then they ramp up, and so car companies like car suppliers like Continental or whoever it is would make enough stuff that they could supply all the car manufacturers different things, and that was all okay. But now we have batteries. Now it's a different story. Now it's like we have a different engine, a totally different thing that is not made by car manufacturers, that is not a guaranteed delivery time, that has variables in it. And so we have this problem where Volkswagen's going to demand 1 million ID3s, and the company who's making all the components has to provide 1 million bits. But you could have 1 million shells of a car standing there, not a single battery in any one of them if it doesn't work out properly. So there's all kinds of issues that could come up here. Going through all the no sound things, sweating a bit. I was sweating there when that wasn't working, because I thought, God, there's people waiting now and I haven't got it. Look how many people are watching this stream. I was told that this is Ireland's biggest live stream. Did you know that? I thought it was loads of live streams, but there isn't that many live streams. There's only me. Well, there's not only me, there's a few others, but some other people just can't do what I do, which is the difficult bit, is to sit here for 2 hours straight without a single ad break, without being able to go to music, cue the ad, cue the thing, and take a little break in the middle. Not me, not at all. I just keep on going, and then at the end of the 2 hours I lie in the corner and cry myself to sleep for a while. No, I don't. I usually go shopping or cook to dinner on Sunday. Just as well our sound now, the t-shirt will be off, says Paul. You're right, Paul. It's getting warm in here after this. Could end up being a strip show. No, I can't do that because it'd be demonetized. Even if I stripped, it would be demonetized. Can't show nipples on YouTube. Welcome back, Bob. Greetings from sunny Cork, says Niall Berkman. Marcus Hogan. Hi, Bob. I said, as I said in the group, I went to Belgian Grand Prix. Wonderful weekend. I've never been to a modern day Grand Prix. It was that one feels like generations ago. But I haven't been to one in, I don't know how long, but it's been a long time. Happy 41.4 thousand subs. Thank you very much. Subs are rising. I think we've had about 10,000 subs this year, just this year, which is the fastest growth of all time, if you know what I mean. Every year the channel gets a little bit bigger, but it gets a little bit faster on its growth as well. That's okay. I've just under 19.9 million people have watched the channel, so it's a big channel. It doesn't feel big. Subscriber count is what YouTube hangs everything on. They show you that first. They kind of go, yeah, this channel has 40,000 subscribers. They don't show you many people who actually watch the videos, because car is a fairly unique thing. People come and watch a review of the car they're interested in, and then they leave. They don't necessarily subscribe. They love the video, or they like the video, they comment on the video, but don't necessarily subscribe because they're not interested in cars per se, which is why Top Gear is struggling to get an audience, why Fifth Gear is struggling to get an audience, why these TV shows are struggling to get made these days, because the audience, the universal interest in cars has fallen a lot, a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot of people know nothing about cars. My neighbour here is dying to talk to me about cars, but knows nothing about them. But always tries. God love them. They always give it a go, but they always kind of make it neat to themselves. Catherine Shanahan says, hi Bob. Hi Catherine. Brian Kelly, good to hear you live. I'm here, yes. David Madden, what do you think of the new electric Mini at Frankfurt? Battery too small, failed before it starts. It's a waste of time. I'll be dead honest. I had great expectations. I met one of the engineers behind it as an Irish guy. He's a lovely chap, and I met him over in Mini HQ in Oxford a few weeks back, and had a lovely chat with the man. And he had great expectations, and none of those expectations seem to come out. The car looks okay. I mean, it looks like a Mini. Has a few little tweaks here and there, but the battery range is miserable. Like, it's a miserable little thing. It's not really a car, you know. It's compromised. It's like they went, yeah, let's make an electric Mini, and then we ran out of money. I went, okay, let's just make a Mini electric. So let's just take all the bits from a Mini and make space for some batteries and stick them in. And somebody went, oh, I've only room enough for that much batteries. So it became this kind of a small car. Very annoying to see it come to the Frankfurt show, and you turn up and you go, well, you know, it's a Mini electric. Wow, surprised me with something. Also, I was surprised Land Rover didn't bring their Defender in electric, just for the crack, even just to have one there as if it was a concept or something. Now, diesel, petrol, maybe a plug-in hybrid, maybe. And that panel on the back, anyway, we'll come back to that. The panel on the back just didn't make any sense to me, that little plastic panel, really stupid. Calla Nuts says, hi Bob, do you still have your Seat Leon? I certainly do. A 13-year-old Seat Leon, 1.6 litre petrol, and currently my wife has driven it to work, so yeah, we still have it. I have currently as well a Tesla Model X outside the door, which is why the Tesla key looks like a little Tesla. Looks like a Model S, funny enough, not an X. Some time ago you said you will do a video update of the high mileage Skoda Octavia. Is still coming, thank you. It's getting the Skoda Octavia high mileage one is not mine, and when it's not out with the press, it's in storage. So to get it out of storage to make a video about it, we have to actually get it out of storage and service it and make it work. So it will happen at some point, I'm just not sure when. Tom says, speaking of odd names, I'd like a Dacia Duster, but it ticks the boxes for me, but I can't stand the name Duster. Duster's not a bad joke. I mean, okay, so the name is a bit thick because it's Duster, like a chalkboard Duster or something. Dacia is a good name, Romanian. The car itself is actually fine. Longevity wise, they seem to be fairly reliable. They're not exciting in any way, but they look okay. They're all right. They will keep on going. They'll never really, you're not going to walk inside the front door of the house and go, no, I'd love to go for another drive in the Dacia Duster. But still, they're fine. They do a job. They're utilitarian. They're fairly affordable, although the price is rising quite substantially on them. They're not quite as affordable as they used to be, and if you start poking about at the prices, you find that they're actually competing into a point where they're very similar to the price of other stuff out there. So there's a bit going on there as well. But at the same time, if you're into Dacia or you're into Duster thing, it's fairly good value for money. You do get a fair bit of kit in it, but it is utilitarian, and if you were to go back a few years, you're kind of closer to communist stuff. Paul O'Connor has just become a new patron. Thank you very much. Paul O'Connor has just gone on to Patreon, which is in the link down below there, and become a patron. I'm going to change how Patreon works over the coming months. I'm going to be putting exclusive Patreon videos up there, behind the scenes stuff, a bit like the behind the scenes video I did. I know not all of you watch it, that's okay, it's a half an hour, 35 minutes or something of the Frankfurt Motor Show, but a bit like that, but in this sort of behind the scenes stuff. So when I go to a video, I go to a day, or I go to international launch, I'll come back with a second video which will go on Patreon only, which will be just for the Patrons people. So if you want to, you can click down there and go over to patreon.com and sign up there, or you can do PayPal. You want to do a single payment, or you want to do super chat, or whatever way you want to do it. But really, it's always going to be free, and I always encourage everybody to come along to the Sunday service. 100 of you watching right now this minute, so I always encourage all of you to come along to Sunday service. Just hit the subscribe button. It's really it. It's all I really ask for, as long as you have your ad blockers turned off and you allow the ads to happen. Anyway, Jim the bus driver, that is. Bob decided not to pay too much heed to people's views on EVs. I have a Tesla Model 3 Performance on order. Well done. I drove it in France and was blown away with it. I'm happy with my decision, and you should be. I have driven the Tesla Model X all week, and I've fallen in love with the whole idea of what it does. It is an effortless car. Now, it has a lot of flaws, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be a Tesla-ati here and go wild and say Tesla's brilliant. There is a lot of flaws in the Model X. There's flaws in the Model 3, there's flaws in the software, there's things that don't quite work, there's road noise that's just unacceptably high, there's no air conditioning buttons in the back seat of the car, so it's freezing or roasting in the back seat of the car. I don't find the doors terribly slow. That's a complaint. I see other people going me, just trying to find something wrong, but actually the doors are fine. They open up pretty quick. Sometimes the doors get tricked and they don't open all the way, just out of nowhere, even though there's not much sky above them. I just find Tesla are doing things that other car manufacturers should have done years ago. Even this has not got remote central locking. I mean, it does have remote. I can open and close the car. This is the key of it, from this. But when you walk up, it doesn't open. You have to click the button on that. Now, even if someone stole the thing and got the car to open from the clicky bit in here and stole the whole lot, they still have to get a keypad. There's a keypad inside to start the car. Why hasn't everybody got that? Ford have had that for years in America. I don't know why we don't have it in Europe, but no, of course Tesla are wrong. I think Tesla are brilliant in what they're doing. They're trying to change the world, one car at a time. They're just a bit thick when it comes to the business of the car industry and dealing. Anyway, that's a different story. They'll get it going. But Model 3, I'm looking forward to Model 3. I've had a few offers of test drives of Model 3. I will be taking all of the offers of test drives of Model 3s just to see which one I like the most. But certainly, Jim, you're making the right decision as far as I can see. If the Model 3 drives and handles similar to that Model X and just has that effortless feel about the whole thing, you'll have made the right decision. It's not as dramatic, obviously, with those doors open and God, you stop traffic. Honest to God, you can go nowhere in a Tesla of any kind without people coming running at you from all over the streets to take pictures of it. It's weird, and just watch the doors open. And I made it do that dance thing uptown as well. Wild. Paul Spicer, glad that I got it all working. Good afternoon, thank you. Liam Cotter, what is a marginal car that are for sale in the UK? That's what they're calling them, less than 6 months old. A marginal car. So there's the VRT thing. If a car is under 6 months old, I don't think you pay VRT. It's a complicated system when you import it here. Or is it over 6 months old? Is one or the other? I think it's under 6 months old. You don't pay VRT to import it into Ireland, as far as I know. I think it's called a marginal car. I could be wrong in that, Liam. I put hand on heart now. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what it is. Less than 6 months old, I don't think you pay any VRT, or you don't pay any VAT, or you don't pay one of them two anyway. Operator Hoot says, good afternoon, Bob. Welcome home. Thanks. Andy McAfee. Bob, have you heard of a fellow Irish motor endurance YouTuber called Stavros969? He does trucks. Would be good to see a collab with you having a go at driving an Arctic for the first time. I have heard of Stavros. I've watched a couple of his videos. I think I sent him a mail one time and he never answered me. Anyway, look, he's on his own route. I'm sure he's got his own things to do. He's a truck driver, I think, normally, doesn't he? I haven't heard in a long time of Stavros anything. So if somebody wants to tell him to reach out and get in touch, I will certainly listen and see what he has to say. But now, I would, of course, love collaborations. I'm mad into them, but Irish people are just selfish and weird and aren't quite sure to think you're threatening their livelihood or something. I'm not sure what that is. There's something in the Irish mentality that when you say, listen, we should hook up and do something, they go, oh, yeah, and then no, nothing happens. Anyway, Anton Shurison says, greeting from Cork. Did you get to see the new Honda E? I did. It's a brilliant looking car. What are your thoughts? I think it's too short a range. Really, they handled the launch of that very badly. They handled the range of it very badly. It looks exceptional. There is a ton of electronics in it. And I think that might be a bad thing. I think that might actually be a detractor from it. Imagine, let me put it this way. I have, somewhere hovering around here, I have an iPad 1. Now that iPad 1 still works, and in that you could get emails on it and you could do other things to it. Some things will still work. A lot of it doesn't work. A lot of things won't go on it anymore. The browser's not quite sure whether it wants to work anymore, and there's a few other things on it too. So if you pack your car full of electronics, how long before those electronics don't work to do what they were set out to do because things have moved on? Is that 5 years or 10 years or what are we talking? You know, mechanical cars like my Seat Leon, they're 13 years old. In 13 more years, that will still go. Like, that'll still start and run. As long as there's petrol and I can service it still, it'll be fine. So I'm not entirely convinced about these electric cars that are going all electric inside, all electric outside. But they're reinventing the whole interior with stuff, you know, like it's unlike the Tesla one. The Tesla one has Google Maps. It's using things that are available out there right now that you just pay a lease on. If Google Maps updates, the Tesla thing updates, and so on. So in that way, that works. Whereas Honda has invented their own proprietary system across the middle of it. It looks fantastic, but I'm just not sure how long it would last. But the car itself is so cute. It's got a little face, looks gorgeous. It's in my roundup video of the Frankfurt Motor Show, along with meeting Phil Huff while I was there. Phil's a good friend of mine. Phil's a lovely guy. Phil has been a great support on the channel for a long time, so I like Phil. But that's in that video as well. But I do like the Honda E. It looks cool. Looks like a cool little thing, but it's a very small in the back, slightly cramped here and there, and it will be expensive for sure. Cross says, my dad has asked to put down a deposit on ID3, largely driven by his Beetle nostalgia. Would be his third EV. Trying to convince him to get a classic Beetle and EV conversion kit as a project. That was at the Frankfurt Motor Show as well. There was two companies there who were purposely converting Beetles to be electric. And Basically, it has a kind of a dipped floor pan underneath. It looks like someone's added a side skirt to it. It's the battery pack underneath, and there's an electric engine in the boot, and away you go. It's a brilliant system, and would be a better handler than the original Volkswagen Beetle. Skoda had the new Citigo EV at Frankfurt Up Citigo, now electric only. Double the range and previous E-Up and little more interior space. They will not be coming to Ireland. None of those small Up Citigo Seat Me's in electric are coming to Ireland at all. They are too expensive. By the time we pay VRT and VAT and blah 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 blah, it's too much money. I worked out the VRT on that Tesla Model X outside the door. Now VRT, vehicle registration tax, goes to our government directly and has nothing at all to do with car industry, and nothing. It doesn't get shared out. It goes in as taxation. And that VRT on the Model X outside the door is €12,950 or something around there. Just about €13,000. So 13,000 of the purchase price of a Model X goes directly to the government in one tax, and then there's VAT that goes on to that as well. It's another tax entirely. So unfortunately, we won't be getting the little electric cars from the Volkswagen Group because they'd be too expensive here. You'd be talking €30,000 for a Volkswagen Up. Can you imagine it? 30 grand. No. Marcus Hogan says, "Hi Bob, very disappointed about the Honda E. Wonderful interior, smart exterior, shame that VW ID3 makes almost irrelevant. Lower price, mega range. That's what VW did." What VW has done is they are basically now behind the scenes and off the record, but now I'm on the record saying this. So at the moment, what Volkswagen are doing is they are going to subsidize the ID3. They're going to make it incredibly, nearly sell it at a loss just to get electric cars into the market, just to be dominant in that segment. That's exactly what they want to do, because they've done nothing with electric for years, and now all of a sudden they're going all in on electric. So they're going to make sure that they are the number one manufacturer in that electric segment. They're going to, I think, let Seat do the kind of Alfa Romeo, the kind of wild stuff off the one side. Let them go crazy with Elborn or whatever that other thing is called. It's really cool looking. Skoda seem to be just getting PHEVs or I don't know, petrol, diesel, maybe some electric, maybe something compliance electric. And Audi's going luxury electric, e-tron and so on. Now, but e-tron obviously has a bit of competition with that Model X outside the door as well. Now, I'm not in the pocket of Tesla of any kind, and Tesla's never brought me on an international trip or has given me a press car before. It's the first one I've ever had. So, but at the same time, people say the Model X is too expensive, and yet it's actually a tiny bit cheaper than an e-tron and bigger. So it's a bit different. But yes, I am disappointed in the Honda E as well. I really thought they would make something that had 500 kilometer range, 300, 400, something, something quite extraordinary, as well as had this little tiny interior. City cars, yeah, I know the whole world is migrating to cities and all the villages are empty now, but seriously, you can't get home from the city to the village though, can you? In the E. Paul McMillan says VW cheated and cheated again on the fix for Dieselgate. You are absolutely right. That is factually correct. What they did was they cheated in the first place. Now, the cheat device, let's just talk about Dieselgate for a second and put it in perspective so we don't lose perspective on what Dieselgate was. The Dieselgate system came up because in America, they have very specific laws over the NOx emissions of diesel cars. They've always had them. They were actually, and I have to put the hand up here and say that America did a far better job at policing the NOx emissions than Europe ever did. Europe has been killing Europeans for years with lung cancer and throat cancer, mouth cancer and all sorts of stuff from NOx emissions. That's happened in America as well, but their NOx stuff was very carefully looked after. Volkswagen cheated that. Volkswagen cheated that whole system and put in a device that would defeat the test. So if the car detected itself on a rolling road, that's easily detectable. Obviously, the front wheels are turning, the rear wheels are not, or whatever. One set of wheels are turning. What they did was they put in a system that would turn down the NOx coming out of the car during that test. But out on the open road would provide massive horsepower. So that was the cheat. It's not breaking the car, and technically it's not setting out to destroy anything, but it is still a cheat. Now what happened was they fixed that. So they set out a software fix and they removed the device itself to fix it. But what happened what ended up happening is they cheated again on a different car, which of course won't affect diesel sales in this country one bit, because Irish people just lie down and take it every single time. Now, at the same time, what I found weird was at the Volkswagen event in Frankfurt, the chief designer stood up on the stage with a child and drew this picture of the ID3 and you know, got the child to say, it's a better world, let's fix the whole world for everybody, can we leave a pound to the world, is going to be the best thing. There was never a moment when I stood up there and went, well, look, we're sorry, we messed up. And they did say, but they even mentioned Dieselgate at one point at the press conference, we messed up and now we're going to fix it. There was really no remorse in the whole thing. It was just like, let's just forget about that bit and move on. And I found it a little bit annoying. It's good to see what they're doing. It's good to see they're moving forward with that. But they really need to have a bit of remorse about Dieselgate and what they did and how they did it and what kind of lengths they went to achieve that thing. So Paul, I agree totally with you. Jerry Wicklow says, goes to show how many car makers are sitting on EV development for donkey's years. Go back, oh God, you could go back to milk floats, Jerry, in fairness. You could go back as far as you want. There's always been electric cars around. There really has. There was patents going about in the 40s and 30s when at the birth of cars, electric cars were there. It was just cheaper and quicker to make diesel engines and much easier to get fuel. You could carry the fuel with you to go further. You know, you could buy petrol and stuff in chemists to go further. You just couldn't. A lot of places had no electricity, so electricity was kind of falling by the wayside. And battery technology wasn't very good, and then no investment in it. Now all of a sudden, lots of investment in it, and it's going really well. So expect more of this, and expect hydrogen to start playing a little bit of a role in the background. Continental said that they were going to invest an awful lot of money in hydrogen over the next few years. Mercedes have invested money in it, and Toyota invested huge sums of money in it. So expect hydrogen to start playing a little bit of an edge to it. But I think for the moment, for the short term, for the next 20 years, I think electric cars are going to be the real sort of a game changer. I don't think it's going to displace too much of the diesel and petrol sales. You're still talking about 2 to 4% of the entire market being electric. It's not. It sounds like an awful lot of stuff is going on, but in actual fact it's kind of hanging about in the background as well. Lots of BMW top development engineers went to China a couple of years ago. Yep, that is going on, and it's going to continue to go on. There's going to continue to be, because China's moving very fast on the electric stuff, and so that movement of going forward very quickly means that it will draw in a lot of the designers that are already out there, because that's what Chinese do. They just go, listen, come on over and design cars for us. They go, no, here's 50 million, come over and design cars for us. And they go, yeah, okay. You'd be crazy not to, you know. I don't know who that was. Raymond Grace just gave us some money by PayPal. You're very kind, Raymond Grace. Thank you very much. It's very good to have you all on board. You're so kind and so cool. 116 people. This is mental. I'm waiting. You know what's going to happen next? Someone from Tesla is going to be here going, what's he going to say about Tesla? How dare he? Sorry, catch up because it jumped forward a bit there. Khaled Nuts says, I live and worked in the car industry in Germany, and I confirm they are in big trouble, mainly because of digitization of the industry, which is a big problem for the Germans. Correct. The industry is moving very quickly. The whole industry, not just the German car industry, which used to be the leaders. Don't forget the Germans invented it's debatable, but they invented more or less the combustion engine, both diesel and petrol. They run on peanut oil, and Mr. Diesel, the guy who invented diesel, is German as well. So Mercedes-Benz, the Benz part invented a car, and so on. They have a lot of history, a lot of pride that goes with that. Now, big issue is the whole industry is moving very rapidly, and that rapid pace of movement is not very good for Germans. The Germans don't like rapid change in that respect. They prefer kind of stable evolution, not revolution stuff that goes on the whole time. They prefer that kind of stable movement, and the electric car industry in Germany is quite low. It is, relatively speaking, and the reason behind that is the Autobahn, is the distance they travel, the amount of time they spend in cars. There's an awful lot going on, and also the Germans are very mechanical people. They like to be able to fix things. They like little socket sets and stuff, and that just doesn't work. And then what do you do with the service repair? I talked to a service technician the other day. I won't mention what company he's from, as he told me in confidence. But he works in a dealership here in Ireland, and they had four service issues that had come up that they could do for servicing in the last month, that they could charge under warranty. The service industry is falling, and that was used to be the money maker for a dealership. Not new car sales was not the money maker. It was actually the service department that made most of the money, and it's so low now. It's very hard for them to keep up. So it's a different realm out there. Jim Dunn says, I honestly will have a super fast charger fitted in the new Circle K 24 hours soon. Open forecourts on M9 exit 2A, Kilcullen. Jim the bus driver. There you go. He's getting a Model 3. You can get a little adapter, by the way, from Tesla. I don't know how much the adapter is. It's in my Model X. I must check. I have a feeling it's like €300. But the adapter adapts CCS to fit the normal Tesla charger. So you can charge at a CCS charger, but it doesn't plug in like a CCS plug. It's quite cool. Or you can charge at a supercharger, which I did the other day, 112 kilowatt hours. I'm not sure of that language. But it was a very fast charging. It was like an hour to get it fully charged. Paul Grady, afternoon Bob, what do you think of the new Defender? I like it. It looks like a Tonka toy. It looks like a Land Rover Discovery, just kind of butcher. It completely displaces old Defender buyers. The old guys, the guys who would have bought every generation of Defender to collect them. It completely displaces them. It's not like any of those cars. Bonus, I fit in it. When I sat in, my elbow was not stuck into my rib cage and my knee went somewhere, so that was good, which is unusual in Defender because I don't fit in normal Defenders. The downside is it's going to be expensive. It's not as big as the old Defender and doesn't have as many optional bits and pieces you could do chassis wise, make it longer, shorter and so on. So there's a bit of we'd have to see it on the road. We'd have to see it driving, see what it looks like. It looks great on a stand, and I'm sure all the English reviewers all went, wow, it looks fantastic, because it's, even though it's owned by China these days, it's still heralded as a sort of a very English thing to do, to have a Range Rover, Land Rover, Jaguar sort of thing. But at the same time, I can't work out that panel on the back really bothered me, a plastic thing. It just made no sense. It looked like this floating rough panel. It looks like nothing but getting dirty. The steel wheels look way better than the 21-inch stupid alloy wheels that are on it. And of course the steel wheels will be much more practical for driving off-road. So there's an awful lot of things for and against, but until I actually get a drive of it, and I don't even know when it's properly launching, I'm certainly not invited on anything at the moment. But we'll see. Could be. I was on the Evoque launch, so maybe I'll be on the Defender launch. It'd be pretty good. I wouldn't mind going off-road again. Powell's here. Bob, since I watched your live stream, my English skill has increased from B1 to B2. Thank you. No problem at all. Believe it or not, Irish people are held up as speaking the best English in Europe. Isn't that weird? That's true. The most sought after translators in the EU are Irish people who can translate English to French or English to German or whatever. So if you want a future job and you want the best job of your life, learn another language besides English. And I'm not talking about Irish. Learn German, learn French, learn Spanish, learn something like that, and then get yourself a job in the EU as a translator, because it's always Irish people who get most of those jobs. And I regularly, on international trips, when I'm listening to someone in my ear, often enough you'll hear an Irish person speak. Terry Atkins says, knock it back to an hour, Bob. The wife goes mad listening while you rattle on. She's no interest in cars. There's a wonderful thing, Terry. It's a modern invention. It's really modern. It's called headphones. You put them on, and then you don't have to listen to anyone outside, and they don't have to listen to any of the crap you're listening to. So that's why I'm here, to give us all a lovely central location to fall into, so we can all talk about cars and motoring and taxes and whatever else. 130 of you watching. Listen, if you've never seen this before, click the subscribe button. But you can support this channel because it's totally unfunded by the car industry. The car industry pays nothing towards the cars reviewed on this channel or anything else that happens here. So if you can support the channel, it'll be absolutely brilliant. There are links down below for Patreon, PayPal, and Super Chat is there as well. And then there's the various shops and things. You can go to Amazon and buy things. You can go to Teespring and buy things if you want to actually get a physical thing. You can do any of those things, but at least subscribe. Over on my Instagram, you can subscribe there too. I regularly update stuff. I did an entire Frankfurt Motor Show video on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter as well. I do use Facebook. I don't use it that much, to be honest with you. All I do is get pornography fired at me on Facebook. I don't know why. I get all these women wanting to be friends, and then they go, hi. And you go, hi. Where do you live? You know, not near you. Where are we? Will it be a blah budget car taxation wise, or they won't want to upset the punchers due to the spring election? Well, I can confirm something for you. The SIMI have called an emergency press conference. Well, they're not saying it's an emergency, but they are saying that they really want to meet people like urgently to talk about the next thing that's happening in the car industry, because they're not happy with the way the taxation system is going. Now, if the SIMI aren't happy, lads, then we're in trouble, because the SIMI are, I'm not saying they're very powerful, but at the same time, they will go wild if something's not right. And I can't find it. Oh, here we are. So Tuesday, they're going to hold a press conference, and they're talking about the motor industry has felt the impact of Brexit since its first announcement in 2016. Our new car market has declined by 20%, while used car imports have reached record levels. With the upcoming announcement of Budget 2020 and the negotiations of Brexit ongoing, where does this leave the car industry? The Society of Auto Industry would like to invite you to a press conference on Tuesday morning. The potential impact of no-deal Brexit on the economy and the motor industry, the budget for 2020, consumer confidence and the environment is the topics they want to cover. I've never seen them do this before, a budget. Normally they stay relatively quiet. They stick out a couple of press releases and then they go, no, that's it, you're not doing that. But this time there seem to be a lot of questions about it. So I'm not so sure how they're going to approach it. I think they're going to hurt somebody if they don't get their way, because the car industry is in trouble in this country. The dealerships are in trouble. There's a lot of new dealerships starting up going, WeBuyAnyCar.com is nearly here as well. So there's an awful lot of stuff going on in that industry. The insurance industry is penalising people left, right and centre. The tax industry is penalising people left, right and centre. They do nothing about that. The NCT is killing off old cars in a massive sense. We're importing manky dirty diesels from the UK on a regular occasion, where our CO2 emissions have gone through the roof. We are one of the worst polluters in the world of CO2. So we're not working. It's not working here. We got to fix that, and the budget is not going to be the one to do that, because we have a pile of fools that are leading us that don't really understand the general public. They're totally out of touch with what the general public wants. They're more interested in getting their grants to go and do their stuff back in base, Anyway, Terry Atkinson says, any sign of Fiat at the show in Germany? No. No. No, Fiat won't be coming to that show. Fiat have been in trouble for years. Fiat are continuing to be in trouble, and I don't think that's going to stop. They're going to get bought out or closed down. I'm not sure which. It's a tough time for Fiat. It takes a massive investment to make a new car. They've had nothing but the Fiat 500 for years. That's their only seller, really. They brought out the Fiat Tipo, a bloody good car, but it just failed to find homes anywhere in Ireland. Fiat Ireland, I think there's 3 or 4 people still working in the building up there that's rattling around a building that's big enough to house the whole of us in a meeting easily, and all our cars and a yard at the back of it and everything. It's a massive place. I just don't know what kind of future they will have internationally and nationally, but we'll see over time. Callan Hangris, thank you very much. Callan Hangris has submitted a lovely donation by PayPal. He did as well today, so thank you very, very much. You're very good. You've gone straight to the top of the good boy list. It's people like you and like all the donators on all the different platforms that keep the channel free and keep me from having to bow down or hold back when I want to talk about the car industry, because I get to say whatever I want, because they don't fund me, they don't advertise here, they don't they advertise in newspapers and magazines and websites and stuff, but they don't advertise with me at all, nothing. So I get to say whatever I want to say, which is kind of a nice place to be. Hopefully that will continue as well. Marcus Hogan says, oh, by the way, if you're looking at a Fiat thing, be very careful what you buy. You will get some used car buys from Fiat, and Fiat do an electric 500, by the way, as well. But you will get some used cars, cheapy used cars from Fiat, because they're not a popular brand. But I just don't know where the future's going with Fiat, whether it's going to survive another 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It's nearly 8 years ago that I heard they had 9.6 billion in a slush fund just in case something would go wrong. Just in case something would go wrong. Here we are, 2019. That's probably zero now at this stage. Be very little left in that. And it's the Italian thing. It's the Italian paying the top brass first and all that. It's a difficult place to be for a Fiat. I wouldn't like to be. I'd love to take it over as the MD of Fiat Ireland. I'd love to, because if someone walked into the showroom, they're here to buy a Fiat. They're never going to get out without it. I'd actually love it. And I could drive a Panda every day, which would be quite nice as well. Anyway, Marcus Hogan says, you heard the fifth gear news? Yep, they're dropping TIFF. Yeah, I know. Oh, TIFF. I did a Goodwood up the hill with TIFF Needell once upon a time. I opened the door. I can't remember what the car was. This was years ago, before I even started doing motor reviews on YouTube. Anyway, I was covering it for some magazine or other, and I wanted to go up the hill, and I got into a car with them. Don't remember what it was. Into the passenger seat. He never spoke. He just said hello when I got in, and I sat down and I put the straps on. He says, I hope you don't mind, we're filming. I went, I don't mind. We're just filming him, not me. Just all the cameras are pointing over that guy. And the little flag person went. TIFF Needell started to talk, and he just never stopped. It just, like a stream, just kept on talking all the way up the hill. And I was going, no, just shut up so we can enjoy what's going on. Get out the other end of there, thanks. And I got out and walked away. That was it. That was the whole experience I had at TIFF Needell. But he's a nice guy. I met him afterwards. We went to the Ford tent thing, and he was inside. He was a lovely guy. We had a great chat. Knows an awful lot about cars and cars too. Vicky, Jason and Johnny remain. Johnny's a really nice guy. I met Johnny a few times now. I met him there in Frankfurt. I met him on a Renault gig a while ago as well. Apparently they still get on with TIFF. The network got rid of the best person on the program, EGC. This is what happens. Unfortunately, it usually comes down to money, right? So what happens is you've got this longevity. So supposing I'm going to pick some numbers out of my bum here, right? But supposing you pay TIFF Needell 100 grand for a series of fifth gear, right? Because TIFF used to be top gear, and he has experience, and he has a certain kind of an audience that comes with him. He's very popular in that respect, and so he's a quantifiable thing. He's not a new guy, so you kind of go, hang on, I'm going to pay him a bit more. And you give Johnny 50 grand, right? And you give Vicky 100 grand, because Vicky has heritage. Vicky would have a lot of fans. Even today she have a lot of fans. And Jason Plato, I don't know why people like him so much, but people do like him. He's got a race car, but he wouldn't do it unless it was worth his while. So what happens is you get this idea when there's a new series coming in, and then TIFF might come back and go, listen, I'm not doing another series at the same money they're at. I have much more experience. I want 150. Now you have two choices. You pay him more than them, you're going to have to increase all their money, or you get rid of him, save yourself 150 grand. That's kind of what a lot of this stuff comes down to in TV. It's why I don't really like television. It's why I think if an offer came in from Fifth Gear or Top Gear or one of these established shows or Men and Motors or something, I'd really have to take very, very big stock of the contract and the stuff that goes with it, because often enough it's dog eat dog in these jokes. It really is. I have friends in What Car, in all these other places, and they never asked for a collaboration. They never say, come on over and do a video with us. Never. Because they're afraid I will displace one of them. They're afraid for their own future. And that's a terrible thing to be in. We're all in the entertainment industry. We'd all actually elevate one another. But we can't, because they won't. They're fear of their own life. I'm fortunate. I have my own publication. This channel is mine. It doesn't belong to somebody else. It's not belonging to the Indo or to, Irish Times or something. It's actually mine. I've built this from start. So I built it with you guys helping out from the very beginning as well. A lot of you guys are here subscribers since the very start. So it's, we've grown together over time, and that's kind of handy, because it means I don't have to answer to anybody except for you guys. Cross says the electric Mini is heavier, less practical front-wheel drive i3 with a smaller battery. Literally, the motor, inverter and controller hardware is from the i3. There you go. That says it all, really. It's heavier as well, which makes it worse. I just don't know. It felt like the build-up to the electric Mini was going to be something really good, really interesting. So interesting, we went to Mini Oxford to meet the bloody engineer from it. Like, it really seemed like a very interesting thing to do. And then when it's launched, it's very flat. It's like, well, there's another electric car. It's weird. Andy says, I wonder, would Skoda buy back my Mark 1 Octavia as the lower mileage sister car to the higher mileage one? You never know. Ask them. Just literally send them an email. Skoda Ireland. They're on Twitter as well. The All Sports channel. I have a Toyota Camry Extremo. That sounds deadly. I bought it new in 2013, but after 1 year, the sat-nav stopped working. The dealer in Bangkok wanted $300 for software upgrade, and we're the only ones to experience this. Set fire to it and buy another yoke if you're buying it in Bangkok. I don't know. Why would a sat-nav stop working and 300 quid for a software upgrade would make it work again? That doesn't make a lot of sense, to be honest with you, because like 300 quid would buy you a brand new Garmin, you know, stick it up the window and forget about it, or a TomTom or something, easily. Doesn't make a lot of sense for that to be a fix. If it stopped working, what does stop working mean? The screen's not working that it's on, or the software's not navigating you wherever you want to go? That doesn't. Some of that makes sense, some of it doesn't make sense. But I'm the only time I've ever heard of anyone with this problem is right now. So yes, you're dealing with experience this. Powell says Andy is quite easy for me now to write in English, but I'm still far from proficiency in speaking. So still far from proficient in speaking is the word you're looking for, but yes, still makes sense to me. It's okay. I regularly meet people from Poland or from Latvia, Estonia, you know, all across kind of Eastern Europe where you have an advantage over me. I speak no Polish, nor Russian, nor anything. The only one I've ever watched on YouTube that's in, I like Bald and Bankrupt. He's good. Sometimes it's a bit weird, but a lot of time he's pretty good. He speaks what I class to be perfect Russian. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the Russians go, this is an Englishman speaking Russian. It sounds crap. But to me, it sounds like he's speaking natural Russian. And he's from England, so he speaks perfect English as well. But for me, I only speak English really, and some pidgin. I can get away with asking for a beer or a coffee or directions or something in maybe German, maybe French. I do okay in French, and very, very little in Spanish, but only because I have to, because I regularly travel in and out of those countries, and it's really useful. The minute you go outside the hotel environment, or you go outside the event environment that you're at, and you go to a kind of normal, like a cafe or a decathlon or something, they only speak the language you're in. So a lot of these guys only speak French when you're standing in a decathlon buying another fleece or a pair of shoes like me. David Madden says, Bob, any idea what the price of the VW ID3 will be in Ireland for each battery variant? Great car at Frankfurt. It would be very similar to the announced prices, so sub 30 for the entry level one. Now we still have to work out the taxes and what's going to happen after that. So the prices will be very similar to what they have. The middle one will be 40, the top one will be 50, and even Volkswagen Germany is giving you from those prices or around those prices or sub this, not even accurate prices there because of the way the taxation system works. So they will be very similar to that, pending the continuation of the grant system and pending the ability that VRT will be changed possibly for electric cars. I don't know how truthful that was going to be, but they'll be affordable. They have to be cheaper, more affordable than Kia's offering and Hyundai's offering, because right now they're kind of the market leader. Even though Nissan have been sniffing around the outside of that, I still don't think Nissan is finding enough homes for the Leaf. I think they're struggling with supply. I think they're struggling on a lot of fronts, and it's not necessarily Nissan. It's kind of out of Nissan's control. It's Renault that's doing that to them. But currently, Kia and Hyundai are doing the biggest amount of transactions, particularly Hyundai, because they're an importer, they're not beholden to Hyundai Germany or Hyundai Korea. But PSA used to have keypad immobilizers in the 90s across their entire ranges as an option. Everybody had them one time, and Ford have them still on the door locks of a car. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever looked at some of the videos online? Like the Ford F-150 has a keypad on the door. So instead of using your key to unlock it, you turn off the alarm with the key, then you put in a keypad to open the door, and then you have the keypad again to get the car started. It's simple, such a simple idea, and it completely negates the idea of someone using a transmitter to boost the signal of your key to the car so you can open it and start it. It completely goes wrong. It's a physical thing. It's like your bank card. You know, it's without the PIN code and the card, you can't steal it. Powell says, Bob, do you already know the date of the YouTube crossover meeting with Marek? I kind of know the date. It's unconfirmed. It'll be somewhere in October, I think. We're trying to arrange a date. It's so hard. The unfortunate bit, in September, October, November is really busy time in the car industry. So there's a lot of launches happen. There's a lot of 2020 business going on. A lot of car reviews have been done. I have Irish Car of the Year, and I'm the chairman of that bloody whole group. Like, that's 45, 50 people, and the entire car industry will be looking at me, little me, who started with nothing so long ago, will be standing up on a stage presenting the Irish Car of the Year this year again. It's a very big award, hugely prestigious thing to win. A massive competition this year between all the car industry, and it's just little me, the guy with a little YouTube channel that everybody was laughing at 8 or 9 years ago, is suddenly the chairman of the entire group. So I have all that to do, and in the middle of that I'm going to try and fit a sort of a 4-day gap that I can go to Poland, Warsaw, and we're going to do a big road trip with Marek Drives, which is another group, in the snow. If it snows, of course, obviously in Poland. And we're going to go off down to some industrial town. I don't know, he's bringing me. Himself and Anna is going to bring me. I've met the two of them at the Frankfurt Motor Show. I have selfie proof to prove that I met them. So we have met. We had a lovely chat. But again, it was really busy at the show. We had no kind of downtime. There was no moment where the two of us got to sit down and have a drink around. It's just like we met, we chatted for 5 or 10 minutes, and then he had to go and do his work. And next time I met him, we were going through Volkswagen or Mercedes. So we're going hopefully somewhere in October, with a video coming out in October as well, if we can make it all marry up on time. David Madden says, Bob, your Tesla X 100 kilowatt battery and new motors. Tesla says 505 kilometers range. What range are you getting there? Thanks, Dave. Dave, I am getting 500 kilometers range. I've done in excess of 1,000 kilometers. So I've done 1,300 and something kilometers in that car. I picked it up on Monday. I drove it to the airport. It was full on Monday. I drove it from the airport back home. I drove it from home back to Dublin for a meeting in Greenogue. I drove it home and then back to Limerick for a meeting on there as well, not in the same day. And then yesterday I started with 98% battery here in the house after I charged up overnight, and I drove to Waterford, Tramore, and back home, and still had 25% battery before I plugged it in. The range is phenomenal, and you don't think about it. This is not me nursing it. I was slightly speeding on the motorway, doing 120, autopilot on, straight down, air conditioner running the whole show. In range mode was the only specification I put on, was I turned on range mode, which just turns the air conditioning down a bit so it doesn't come out quite so frosty. But other than that, range wise, I'd have no problem saying go for it. I live near Ballacalla. It's about less than 25 minutes from here to a supercharger in Ballacalla. So if you get free supercharging forever on your car, then you're sorted. But Model X, very noisy inside, but brilliant on the range front. Liam Cotter says VAT is payable on cars less than 6 months old plus VRT. They are treated as new cars. Over 6 months old is just VRT. Right, there you go. You got an answer to that one. I'm not too sure how that works. I've never imported a car, so I couldn't tell you how all that works. There's always a kind of a catch to everything, isn't there? Column F says, and needs over 6,000 kilometers on the clock, or you pay VAT, even if it's over 6 months old. Whoa, right. Getting technical now. Andrew Daly, I hope the EV industry doesn't end up being like big oil firms, e.g. loss of large tracts of natural land to get at mining resources. There's less and less stuff being mined out of the ground to go into batteries these days, but I get your point. You're right. We do need to possibly legislate for that kind of thing, to say, how it's been mined, how we're getting it out of the ground. We don't need to destroy the entire world, a resource at a time, just for transport, for private transport. So we've destroyed more or less the oil industry, pretty much. We've torn every drop of oil you can get out of the ground. Basically every dead dinosaur, every dead person who's ever lived on Earth, a pool of crap that appears underneath them, that's oil. And we've turned that into fuel, and now we've turned it into plastic as well. Stop with plastics. And now we're going to do it again with electric cars. So we'll see though. It's a bit like our Minister of Transport. He's a dim-witted, clueless lunatic, as far as I can see. I can't quite work him out. The stuff he says and does is just idiotic. For a man of his years, with his experience, he should be smarter than he is, but he doesn't seem to be. Brian Cullen, VRT is payable on all cars. Additionally, VAT payable on cars less than 6 months old or with less than 5,000 kilometres. It's getting complicated. So it seems to be VRT is payable on all cars imported from the UK. VAT is payable on cars less than 6 months old or with less than 5,000 kilometres. Dunno. Paul O'Connor, when do you reckon electric will be the real option for the 50,000 kilometres plus per year user? It's kind of now, we're just about getting there. Now, it's at the top end of the market, so don't make any mistake to think that you're going to be able to buy into a Nissan Leaf and do 50,000 kilometres a year. You can, but you're always going to be looking for electricity. You're always going to be reliant on the systems. And I drove to Tramore yesterday for the crack. There was on the beachfront at Tramore, there's actually a charge point, an ordinary ESB-backed charge point. And while I was driving down, we were looking at the beach and going, oh look, there's a charge point. I can plug in and just get a little top up, because I had like 40-something% battery, I think, at that stage. But then, of course, it wouldn't accept my card. It wouldn't open the charge point. There was a Nissan Leaf charging next to me. The other charge point was free, and it wouldn't work. So it's an awful pain when the system that's supposed to supply electricity doesn't work. So you can do the 50,000 kilometres range. It just will require a lot of planning right now. Within the next 10 years, within the next 5 years, we're going to find 600 to 800 kilometre ranges on electric cars will become a little bit more commonplace. We're getting there already. We're already well on the way to that. Look at Model X, look at the forthcoming Model Y, if they ever make the thing. The Model 3 that's out right now, we're getting into that 5 to 600 kind of range, and it's starting to look a slightly bit more affordable. Kia is nearly there as well. Hyundai is definitely on the road to that. Volkswagen will just throw money at it until they get there, and Audi promised it to me 3 years ago. I talked to the managing director of Audi Group, and he said that really we want to get 600 kilometre range as a standard for our cars, as an entry level. And you're going, yeah, where's this? 2 years later, I don't even see one of them. The e-tron came out with 300 to 400 kilometres range, really. Liam Cotter says, yep, column that's in a small print as well. Powell says, Bob, do you know when will be the new Octavia be presented? I'd say now very rapidly they scrap that, because they need electric. They need something electric next. Another Octavia launch for Skoda is not what's needed at the moment. What's needed at the moment is something really revolutionary, something really good, like the ID3, to come out and Skoda goes, this is our electric car right here, and here is a plug-in version of the Octavia, and here's a plug-in version of the Skoda Superbia, and have them as well if you want, but you can also have them in diesel. That's what they need to do, because not everyone wants to change from diesel straight over to electric or PHEV, because I don't think PHEV is worth a crap, to be honest with you. I think it's useless. Unless you very specifically live 30 kilometres to 50 kilometres away from your workplace, which has a charge point, then it's completely useless to you. Just buy an electric car. Don't worry about it. Buy a hybrid or buy an electric. But the new Octavia, I would hope they'll have one out before the end of the year, but I very much doubt it. I'd say that's all pushed back a little bit now while the race for electric is on. Brian Cullen says, you can claim the VAT back although it takes a while. There you go, you can get the VAT back after you import the car. I have to shout out there to Land Rover. I just realised I have my little this is a metal refillable thing for water. Don't buy any more bottles of anything. Don't buy plastic bottles of Coke, of 7-Up, of anything. Don't, honestly. Go watch some sailing videos. It's my pastime. I'm not a sailor, but I love watching sailing videos. Go watch some sailing videos and see how much plastic they pick up on beaches all over the world, and it's all coming from plastic bottles. All of it. Plastic water bottles, plastic Coke bottles, plastic Pepsi bottles, Fanta, Lilt, and whatever they are. They're all getting by metal. Anyway, Brian Collins says, I said that. Cross says, I love the Honda E, got a peek of it in the UK while I was in transit to an event. Super high quality interior, under 4 meters long and 7 meter turning radius. Just a pity it doesn't have a 50 kilowatt. Yep, definitely. It turns nearly in its own footprint. It's really, really little. It's a lovely city car. It's such a cute little thing. But the battery range is so short and there's so much electronics in it. I just think I'm very fearful to give someone the heads up and say, this is a brilliant car, you should buy this immediately, when it's absolutely stuffed full of electronics. whatever video it was, at some point I questioned as to how much it would be to replace one of those cameras, rear view mirror camera things, and I'm quoted $9,000. $9,000 if your wing mirror gets taken off your car. Think about that for a minute. Keith 092, wow, there's another 91 of you, Keith. How would that work? Hi Bob, what would be the cheapest family car, 5 people, with auto cruise control and lane keeping? Maybe second hand, thanks. The only ones I know that had good, honest priced active cruise control is the Volkswagen Group, because I've been testing them for a number of years. I remember the Volkswagen Golf was one of the first ones to come out with it, and so you could go back to those. You want to go back into a second hand cheapest family car. After that, they're all going to be in around the 30 grand mark with active cruise control on a new one, and everybody offers it these days. Everyone's basically the same. Not all of them are as good as each other. I find the Audi one that reads the speed signs and then slows down to compensate makes a balls of that on a motorway. You're driving on 120 kilometers an hour and it sees an 80 kilometer an hour sign up the speed ramp and it slows down on the motorway. So it can be a little bit tricky. If you're looking second hand, definitely look at a Volkswagen Golf with the active cruise control already on it. Skoda were offering it. Audi were offering it. Seat had it on a bit later than everybody else, but it was definitely there. So you will find them out there. But the Volkswagen Group one was reliable and worked every time I tried it. Other ones, not quite as reliable. Didn't quite do the same thing. It did a lot of braking and accelerating and stuff. Don't rely on it. It's not autopilot. Neither is the Tesla one. The Tesla one is rubbish on anything but a motorway. Honestly. Get off a motorway, get off a big highway type road, and the Tesla Yoke goes, nah, I don't know anything about this active cruise control stuff. Steering, no, this is a roundabout. You kidding? Never seen one of them before. So that's kind of my experience of the Model X. It's still brilliant. Cormaca says, this VRT VAT thing, I'll never understand how we put up with it for so long here. We've rifled up over Irish Water, yet we'll pay 13,000 quid on a VRT on a car. We're joking in a lot of ways. We are, because what they do is they bring these things in, right? So this is how politics works, by the way. They bring in a tax, and we all go, that's crap, we're never going to pay that. That's crap. And then it dampens down and they get used to it. Now look at what happened with Irish Water. It's a great example, right? Revolution over not paying for Irish Water. We're not paying for water. No way. Guess what? Irish Water still exists. The same people are still employed by Irish Water that we were up there protesting about. And don't make the mistake, I did not involve myself in that. I never engaged with Irish Water, never responded to any of the things, never paid any of the bills, nothing. I refused point blank because the water was just rubbish in this country and has been for years. And we've already been paying for it. My father, my grandfather, they all paid for water over the years, and we get enough of it falling from the sky consistently. It should have been always paid that way. But Irish Water still exists, so they're just waiting. All they're doing is waiting until it settles down, and then they're bringing in a little charge. Just, if you use too much water, we're going to charge you for electricity. And a little bit longer, they're going to wait and they're going to charge you down the road. Eventually they get you, right? You know what I mean? So eventually they're going to bring it in. A softly approach, and it works in this country for years. VRT was brought in by Bertie Ahern and Fianna Fáil many years ago as a protectionist system on the behest of the SIMI to stop people importing cars into Ireland. Guess what happened? More people import cars into Ireland now than have ever imported cars before. And VRT is not just a normal tax, now it's a different tax. Now it's been adjusted and malleable and it's weird and it's hard to understand, and still it goes on. We do nothing in this country on behalf of the consumer. Nothing. All the journalists in the world, like me or anyone else out there, can say whatever they want, but the government do nothing on behalf of you, the consumer. You're electing the wrong people because you're making the people who actually should be elected afraid to get elected because they come under so much scrutiny immediately. Ocean Froggy. Hi Bob. What do you think of the ID3? Will the catalyst for widespread BEV adoption over the next few years? It won't be, not on its own it won't. Let's be clear. ID3 is brilliant. Well, I haven't driven it, I haven't tested it, I don't know. But it looks, on paper, it looks like the solution to an awful lot of problems. You've got the 3 different levels of range, 3 different prices, basically the same car across the range, and it works well in that respect. But it's not the catalyst for, it will help, but it's only one of the group of things that will help to get people out of ICE engine cars. The other thing will be price. It could be the best car in the world, but if it's €45,000 for the car, no one can afford that without PCP and finance. And we already have a massive bubble, financial bubble, happening in Ireland right now. That's going to happen across Europe. So that's going to be a big problem for it as well. But widespread adoption of battery electric vehicles, that's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be a difficult sell. It's difficult for people to understand. There's a lot of investment has to go into that. A lot of home charging units, a lot of charging units that go with everybody else around the edge. It's just so much to do to get widespread adaptation for the car industry outside the norm. You know, there's a lot of people in this country who don't know anything about electric cars, and in fairness, just don't want to know anything about electric cars. They want a 1 litre petrol, or they want a Toyota Yaris, and they're not interested in hybrid or anything else, and they'll stick with the car they have. Liam Cotter says, yeah, Brian, sorry, he's answering someone else. Bob, did you get to see the cross, the ID cross? Yeah, I did, yeah. I think it's in that video at the beginning. There's a couple of ID things, they're concepts, they won't be made. There's one that looks like a beach buggy, which is kind of cool looking, but it probably will never be made as a normal car. And they have the, looks like the old version of a California, you know, the old transport, the original sort of transporter car or van that they had is there as well, and they're all electric. Look, there's a lot of work to do for Volkswagen. They have a lot of money to spend on this sort of stuff, try and get the thing going. You know, it's going to be a tough sell for the next few years. I think Volkswagen will cut some jobs. I think German car industry will be cutting jobs to try and make this work. If you're a company, if you're a supplier into Volkswagen and you've been supplying hoses for diesel engine cars for the last 50 years, what are you going to do? How are you going to sort it out? They have no need for you whatsoever. This is downstream jobs I fear most. It's what are they going to do with all these people, you know? Cross 13 points out the most salient fact of Frankfurt and of the BMW group was, meanwhile in Frankfurt, sadly, all BMW had was an X6 in really, really black paint. To be honest with you, you barely even know the BMW group was there, and it's tragic, really, because a company that has some superb machines out there, and yet they seem to completely blindsided by the whole electric thing. And they had such a head start. I'm so disappointed in that company that had the i3 and the i8 out before anyone else. I know the i8's hybrid, but they had it out before anyone else could do it, and they created a fantastic stir around those two cars. The whole world was talking about them. And then he just went, this electric thing will never catch on. And just walked away like it never happened. It was industrial espionage at its best or something. I don't know what happened to them. But it was crazy, crazy stuff. But anyway, it was fine. They'll get through it, but they won't get through it in the same shape they are at the moment. Again, the Frankfurt Motor Show had X6. The other motor shows have been at it. They had the X7. You know, these are monstrously big 3-litre diesels. They're fantastic, but they're 3-litre diesel engines. It's just, there's no alternative for BMW. They're going to have to rationalise, cut jobs, cut corners, and just start releasing electric cars again. Get that factory back up again the way they had it. Anyway, we'll see what happens next. Andy says, your video of the ID3 made me laugh with the close proximity. You found your spot with a good view, and you're the only person there during their build up to the big moment, vocally bringing up the Dieselgate. I know, that's the thing, yeah. It's gas how quick young journalists and old journalists just go, Dieselgate, yeah, just forget about that. That didn't happen. It did happen. They cheated the whole world. They're killing people left, right and centre. It really is giving people cancer. It's just that straightforward. But sure, we'll gloss over that now. We're all electric now. At the same time, journalists will tell you things off the record. They won't go on the record because they're afraid of their job. They're afraid because they're responsible to advertisers. That's really it, lads. I'm telling you. The reason journalists they're not out to get them to quote their own stuff. What they're trying to do is just keep their job. So a lot of journalists, whether they work for themselves as freelancers or they work for a company or an outlet or whatever it is, they're terrified to really nail a car company because that car company buys advertising space in their publication. And they're scared of it. And they rely on the press cars. They rely on the press trips, which are all paid for by the car companies. So they rely on all that. So they're really afraid to ask the big questions when the big questions really need to be asked. They really do. Like if Volkswagen, what are they going to do with all the jobs? If they're just going to go ID now, the ID range, and they're just going to can everything else that they're doing in the background? What happens to all those people who are employed to do all those jobs? That's a scary question, but it has to be answered. And plus, what happened was the Volkswagen, the stand had curtains on it, and all the curtains were supposed to fall. And you seen there was a lovely girl. I ended up spending a great amount of time talking to this lovely little, very tiny little girl who was taking the covers off the ID3, and she said, "If you just stay here, I'm going to pull the covers off the ID3. So if you just set the camera behind me, because I couldn't get elbow room down near the stage, it was ridiculous." So the curtains didn't fall. That was the big thing. The curtains that were all over the stage just stayed resolutely where they were. So I ended up having the best view of this car when it was unveiled. So I stood there nearly on my own while everyone else was crammed over the stage. So I was like first one to get into the car, first one to open the doors and do stuff. It was just the right time, the right place. That's simple as that. Plus I have little headphones on so I could hear everything anyway. There's an answer for Cross. Snazbot, where Harley Davidson not found cheating in America but let off as they were American? Not that I know of. I never heard of Harley Davidson. No, maybe there was some sort of a cheat thing they did in America as well. But like Harley don't do diesels. They just do big hogs. And plus, you wouldn't have quite the same volume of Harley Davidson hoggy things on the road as you would have Volkswagens. That's worth remembering. Alamo Hines 9. Do you think our electric grid will be able to handle the additional load of electric car charging will add? Yes. No hassle. Unless look, if at the moment I think there's 2 million cars on the road in Ireland, 2 point something, right? Now if every one of those cars went suddenly electric, then you might have a problem, because you've got a pile of novices out there who are going to charge the car every chance to get. So you might have that extra draw that would suddenly come down on top of it, but it's very unlikely. It'll be slowly ramped up over time, and you'll find that more and more people will be going electric. A lot of people will charge at home at night time on a trickle charge sort of an effort. I did that with the Tesla last night. I programmed the Tesla to only start charging about 11 o'clock. I don't have a night meter around, but I just thought I don't want to charge them during the day. So I just let it charge from 11 o'clock till this morning. It's fully charged now, 98% battery, something. It cuts off after a while. But the infrastructure here, now we need to get rid of the peat-fired stuff. I get that. I put pressure on everyone. I mentioned that quite regularly. There's peat-fired electricity right here in the Midlands. That needs to go, and that is being wound down at the moment. So that is on the way out to be replaced by renewables. But once we get to the renewable level of stuff, we should be okay to charge all our electric cars and boiler kettles and do all that sort of stuff. Very rarely get a power cut. And funny enough, the other day we actually got a power cut here. Which is kind of weird. I say that regularly. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen for sure. Brian Cullen, a friend is buying a car up north. Can someone please confirm that if you buy a new one and hence pay VAT, that you can claim the VAT back? Dealer said you could. Dealer wouldn't quote that to you if it wasn't true, but one of the lads will confirm that to you surely in the comments. Alex Theodore, I have a budget of €15,000. What would be a good saloon to look at? Saloon, one that has a good service history. That's very hard to find in Ireland, believe it or not. At that price, there's multiple options. It depends if you want diesel or petrol. I would 15 grand. I'd probably go petrol. Easier to service, cheaper to service. You service yourself as well. You know, you can easily get your hands dirty on their petrol engine car for yourself. You have Octavia. You have Honda Civic Saloon, if you can get one of those. What's the other one called? There's another Honda out there as well. I can't even name it now. What else would be in that range that we work? Mazda 6. There's a good few petrols, 2 litre petrol out there. The gasoline engine is very good in that Mazda 6. Lovely engine to drive. Just multiple ones out there. Just look at the service history. The most important part, looking at used cars, is the service histories, right? That's very important, right? Don't buy a car, even if it looks nice and clean. Find out the last time it got its... big expensive things, are timing chains, timing belts. Has it ever been done? A timing belt on a car can cost you anywhere from, say, €300 to €700, €800, €900. Could be more. If you're going to be changing water pumps and doing all sorts of other stuff as well while you're there, it could get very expensive. So you want to find out when it was changed last. That's an important one. But you also want to have a look at the conditions of the tyres. How much life is left in the tyres now? Because tyres are expensive as well. Tyres can be 200, 300, 400 quid a corner per tyre. You've got multiple other angles to go at from that. So when you're looking at used cars, pick the one you like the look of, and then try and find the best example you can of that within your price range. And then start reading reviews on those ones. Instead of thinking of how much you're going to spend on stuff, go out and find out which one you like the most. Calanuts. I know that you test also e-bikes. In my opinion, e-bikes will replace cars for city mobility. It's happening in Germany, more and more e-bikes on the road. How is it in Ireland? Thanks. Yeah, there's lots more e-bikes here in Ireland as well. Problem is infrastructure. Problem is unwillingness to get wet and cold would be another thing as well that you have to take into account. It's called a human factor. It's where humans are not interested in being uncomfortable to save an environment. And I'm not sure it actually saves the environment, but it certainly does take congestion off the streets when you're on a bike. I've done it multiple times on a bike myself, where you're flying down, carving up the traffic, and going faster than motorcycles. You're just flying through the traffic. So it can be a rewarding thing to do, but not everyone wants to get uncomfortable. During the summer here in Ireland, we get a lot more cyclists on the road. And then from now on to the rest of the end of the year, you'll see a reduction in the amount of cyclists on the road and an increase in the amount of personal vehicle cars you'll see on the road. Really, we need progressive moves from the government to try and get people into bikes. And a cycle to work scheme is just a cheat. It's just a cheat. Bicycles have gone up in price to compensate for what you get off them in a grant. But what we really need to do is progressive moves. So more cycle lanes, more dedicated, carved out cycle lanes with barriers between you and the car, so the car can't get into the cycle lane. Proper curbage on both sides, or barriers in some way to keep the cars away from the cycle lanes. We need cycle lanes where cycle lanes are useful, not greenways beside train stations. We need ones that carve their way right through the centre of a town, going from an estate in the town to the schools, to the workplaces. That's where we need cycle lanes. We need proper fast legislation, fast moving legislation on things like e-scooters, ride-on yokes, like boosted boards and skateboards, and we need legislation to be brought in that. We don't have any of that. None of these things are ever done by the Minister of Transport in any sort of progressive way or time. They're terrified to make a decision, because making a decision here means you're responsible for the decision and you get hung out to dry and no one's going to talk to you ever again. So unfortunately that's the Irish way, is to just hang people for making a decision. There's so many other stuff you can do out there now that would make big decisions, and I'd love to see it happen, but we could easily move to bicycles in this country. It's a perfect climate for it. We don't get, I know it seems like we do, but we don't actually get a lot of rain. We don't actually get a lot of sun. We get this kind of constant greyness for a long period of time. So it'd be very easy to move to bicycles. Brian Cullen, Octavia is not strictly a saloon, but it gets my vote. Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I know it's not strictly, it's sort of a lift back or an estate thing, but I still think Octavia is one of the best used cars you can buy. John Coleman has just sent some money by Coinbase in BitCurrency. Thank you very much. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. I think I have a Coinbase account, because obviously I get emails from Coinbase. Callan Hangarus sent me money by PayPal as well. You're very good. All the support is absolutely brilliant. You can do super chat here as well on YouTube if you want. PayPal or Patreon or anything. There's 138 of you watching now. It's like the busiest day ever, and he's all said not to do it today, but it's here now and we're still going. This is good. I'll be staying a little bit late today because we started a little bit late as well. Of course, we have to do the 2 hours because of all the people who go running to the YouTube podcast. So they click YouTube on and they listen to it instead of watch it. So I've always recorded this as sort of a radio show, so you could just listen and not have to watch. Catboy07 says, how are you, Bob? Powell says, Bob, could you tell us what your diet is? You look so good. I don't feel good. My diet is a variety, omnivore style with an emphasis towards protein. I tend to head more towards protein and away from. I tried vegetarian for a bit. Run a mile. If you're a man, and I can only speak from a male perspective, I don't know what it's like for women. I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I can only speak from a man. So I'm not trying to be sexist here, but I can tell you now straight off, as a man, I went vegetarian and some days vegan. So we completely got rid of meat out of our diet here, and I felt bloody awful. I stopped running and everything. I just ran out of energy, and I didn't put it down to the vegetarian. I'm supposed to feel better as a vegetarian. Then I realised that vegetarians and vegans and stuff take a lot of supplements. they mess themselves up with supplements and stuff. And I went, hang on a second, what are you supplementing for? Surely this stuff is able to just do it. No, it can't. So, went back to meat. We're back in meat now, and I feel great running 20, 40, 60 Ks a week, cycling, energy up the wazoo, the whole lot. So we try and pick really good, high quality meat. We don't like pick, the cheapest of cheap chicken breast or like that. And I tend to steer as much as I can towards high protein meat, and I drop away a lot of the carbs. Now, carbs are just basically sugar. So if you're eating a lot of pasta, or you're eating a lot of rice, not so much rice isn't so bad, but pasta particularly, there is a very high carb quantity, so a very high sugar quantity, because your body converts carbs into sugar, converts into energy. So it's very bad for you. And the problem with being a vegetarian or a vegan is it's incredibly high carbs. And the more of these videos I watched of vegetarian and vegan people, the more I realize their eyes are sunk into their head and they look all gaunt and tired all the time. So I thought, this is wrong for me. I'm just going to go back to being a good old meat eater. So we eat a good stable amount. I try to do a 30, is it 30, 40 or something? 40% protein, 30% carbs, 30% fat. We only use real butter, real Irish grass-fed butter. We don't use any supplements like that. We try to stay away from oil, like olive oil and things. A little bit is great. Don't have too much stuff. Ocean Froggy, the tax industry. What's that? It's called the government. That's what the tax industry is. The Singing Shade says, hi Bob, good man, Singing Shade. Daza says, Fiat cars look boring. They look old, because they are old at this stage. Steve O.C. says, Bob, you mentioned the Waterford Greenway last week. True. I was down in Waterford yesterday as well, and I wanted to cycle it, but we hadn't got enough time. I done it. Do yourself a favour, don't cycle one end to the other to say you've done it. Loads to see and do. Spend a week sightseeing on it. Spend a week? Really? Wow. I must check this out, because I really have fallen in love with Waterford. I have to say, 136 watching now. Really flying along here, boys. I fell in love with Waterford. We've been on to Waterford a couple of times, and I really have fallen for that city. It's such a gorgeous place to go and visit. It's kind of off the beaten path. Not many tourists. Well, there is tourists, but not many down there. It's just a lovely little place. And I've put it down to the fact that a lot of people live in the city centre. There's a lot of apartments and places that are right there within 10 minutes of the city centre. Unlike most of Dublin or Limerick or Galway, where the majority of people live outside the city centre. There's just tourists in there. It's weird. It was a lovely place though. The Singing Shade says, hi Bob, I'll be driving a bus from Galway to Dublin at 16:15, so we'll miss out on the last hour, but I look forward to watching the remainder of the conversation when I get back home tonight. Good man, that's very good of you. And I'm answering questions at the moment from about 5 to 3, so good God, I'm well over half an hour behind you. I'm sorry. I do try and keep up as much as I can, but the show does get packed now with questions, so it's pretty good. You can catch some more of it on your 45 before the return light. That's true. It does sound high actually, Brian. It's still going slightly down, but it goes up and down on a regular occasion. That's okay. I don't mind how many people. It could be, when I started doing the Sunday Service first, I was lucky to get 5 people watching, so I'm okay with 145. That's fine with me. Ray Gray says, hi Bob, electric cars will not solve global warming unless all electricity produced by nuclear or similar clean methods. Nuclear power stations are far cleaner and more efficient than 50 years ago. This is true, but we have to make strides in the right direction. And I suppose you have to make decisions to do the right thing, one decision at a time. And so saying we can't fix the world from electric cars until we fix this problem, that what we do is you move demand uphill. So the consumer says, I want electric cars because I want to save the environment. The electric car makers go, we want to save the environment because our consumer wants cars. So we have to be environmentally friendly. So they put pressure on power industry to up their game. And the power industry goes, well, we need to go electric. So they go, right, we have to have everything in a clean way, so let's go after the government. And the power industry goes to the government, says, give us a grant to make nuclear power stations, and that's how you get nuclear power stations. So that's the only way to get around it. But it all starts with a consumer decision first. You have the power as an individual consumer to close down shops, to make consumer-based decisions, instead of being led by the nose and told you should shop in Aldi because they're the cheapest, you should shop in Lidl because they're the cheapest. Just because they're the cheapest doesn't mean they're the best. I find Aldi to be a very hard place to navigate these days, and I find that the people in it that work in it are so badly treated by the company that they find it very hard to have any time for customers. Lidl is kind of similar, you know. They're nicer, but at the same time, they still try and get you out of the shop as fast as they possibly can. You know, ding, ding, ding. They're closing the till and they're scanning the next item. They're trying to do it like a mousetrap, you know. So it's not always cheapest, not always best. So our solutions have to come from a point of trying to save the environment, but not always the cheapest way to save the environment. That's basically it. Andy McAfee says there's a YouTuber in the US. I can't even pronounce that, Andy. He speaks dozens of languages fluently. He records and posts his random encounters reaction with people speaking to people in their native tongue. Freaks them out. I've never seen that one, I have to say. I did watch, like I said, Bald and Bankrupt is an English guy, he's in Russia. He gives a bit of a behind the scenes look at what Russia looks like. It's very good, actually. Some of it is. Brian Cullen's nuclear waste is far from clean. Tell the Japanese living near Fukushima that nuclear is clean. There's a point there too. That's a modern one that was destroyed by the sea doing its thing. You could at the same time shoot it all into space or something. I'm sure there's always a way out of these things. Once there's investment in it, it's always good. I had another email from Epidemic Sound. They're always trying to get me to buy music to use in the videos, but I don't really use music in the videos anymore. Maybe I should though. Calanut says Porsche released the Taycan Turbo S. It's not stupid. Is it not stupid to put the name Turbo for an electric car? I know, yeah. The project was named by Porsche Mission E. Sound stupid because of confusion with E-Mission. Kind of. Taycan's a good name. Turbo S? Don't know. I know what they're trying to go after. They're trying to say like the Turbo 911 versus the straight 6 911 that is non-turbo. It's just, you know, Carrera 2S sort of thing, or Carrera 3S, whatever it is. So it's not a turbo car. So they're trying to pigeonhole it in the way that Porsche always pigeonhole things. So it's just that. But I know it sounds a bit thick though, doesn't it? Because there's no turbos in an electric car. You get 100% of the effort all the time. Alan Montgomery says, Hi Bob, a few months ago I paid £750 for a build slot for a VW ID3 First Edition. Saying as you have seen it in the flesh, so to speak, would you recommend going ahead as my first electric car? You're going in at the right point, Alan. Delivery is going to be an issue. I think there's going to be a bit of a backlog on delivery because they're going to struggle to keep up with their own battery manufacturer. I believe it's LG or someone like that. From Cross said LG earlier on, so I think it's LG. But I think you're going to struggle to get delivery on time, but once you get it, I think you're going to do okay. I think it's the right car, right time, a very trusted brand. Volkswagen have always done well and held their value well, even despite the Dieselgate factor. Volkswagen have done well to hold their brand together. So I don't foresee any problems. So yeah, you've done the right thing spending your $750. It's cheaper deposit than Tesla want as well. The Fukushima plant went live 48 years ago. No idea on further development in the industry since. Always seemed a bit of an odd move that the plant was located where it was. It's true. It's funny to put it right in the seaside. Like, well, yeah, it's up to their own. Stephen Murphy says starting a new job at a 150-kilometre round trip commute, looking for a used diesel around €10,000 that's reliable with good MPG. Any suggestions? Much appreciated. Love the channel, Bob. Thanks, Stephen. You're very good. €10,000 is not going to get you a whole lot, Stephen. You're going to have to stop worrying about the condition of the car and the styling of the car and more about the fuel economy of the car. 150 commute is a chunk of change, my boy. You're going to be stuck in traffic quite a bit and you're going to be a long time on the road. So what you're really looking for is reliable and comfortable. That's the two things you need, right? Now, reliable diesel engines, all of them in their own little way are reliable one way or the other. Don't buy a small engine, be deceived into the idea that buying a 1.6 litre diesel will be less tax and less insurance, and it's going to be less mileage as well. It really does poorly on motorway, particularly I'm assuming 150 kilometre round trip. You're going to spend a lot of that on a motorway. Try to get something in the 2 litre diesel range. 2.2 if it's Mazda. I think Honda's diesel engines 2 litre as well. So in that kind of range you want to go for, but it's comfort you're after. Really, you're going to spend a long time sitting in the driver's seat, so you want something comfortable. So a Ford Mondeo is one that's in there, very reliable. You tend to get a fair bit of kit in the Mondeo. People who buy Mondeos tend to buy kind of middle spec ones to upper spec ones, so you get a nice little one there for that kind of money. I hate to keep on banging this drum, but Skoda do good. Superb is going to be incredibly fuel efficient and also incredibly comfortable car to drive. If you buy the estate one, you're going to get a monstrous machine as well for the weekends. Stick with the saloon, stick with the estate model type cars if you can, because they're bigger and comfortable inside, and you'll get more money for them when you're trading them on again instead of a 5-door hatch. But in that, look for comfort and reliability. Make sure the car has got a good service history. Make sure you're really happy with the deal. Don't buy from an idiot up the road who doesn't know what they're doing. If you're not a mechanical kind of person, pay the money to get a mechanic to come look at the car and give you a mechanic's report. You can pay the AA if you want to pay a traditional one, or just find a local decent mechanic you've dealt with before and slip him 100 quid or a slab of beer and 50 quid, and he'll haven't inspected the car. A lot of these guys will do it for that kind of money, and they'll come back to you and go, look at all the track rod ends are wrecked on that, and you've got about a year left on those tyres, but other than that it's fine. It's usually like that. Tom Ripley, what do you think about the cameras as side mirrors? What will happen if somebody smashed it? Be expensive to change. I mentioned that earlier on. About €9,000 it's going to cost you to change an Audi, the Audi mirrors on both sides. I found them on a big long list that I wasn't supposed to see. They're about $9,000 if somebody decides to take a sledgehammer to it. They're quite hard to hit. They're not as easy to hit as a side mirror would be on a normal car. But the replacement factor of that, and then if the screen goes inside, how do you see in the rearview mirrors? I mean, there's an awful lot right with some of the original stuff that was on cars. Rearview mirrors is one of them. They work. They really do honestly just work. And they're so cheap when they break. You smash one and it's a couple of quid to get a replacement thing. Well, let's say 100 quid or 200 quid replacing the whole unit. So, there's so much there that you can look at that just leave it alone. The tech works as it is. Like touchscreens, they don't work either. A lot of the time touchscreens are broken. Voice control, that can be a joke in itself. Talking to Siri there and asking a question and it hasn't got a clue what you're talking about. Half the stuff doesn't work. It's just been floated out by young people who come out of college, got a job, and went, you know what, I can design a camera that can be a rearview mirror. That's been around for years, by the way, as well. It's an old thing. I think it's crap, Tom Ripley. I reckon that we should just stay with normal mirrors because they work. Andy says Skoda won't be allowed to release until the group establishes their primary and higher brand first in any market segment. As always, their R&D will be eagerly harvested in the meantime. This is true. Poor old Volkswagen Group does suffer from the fact that it has a hierarchy in it. In that the four main brands, I know there's loads of other brands like Lamborghini and Porsche, they do their own thing, but Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat and Audi tend to hamper one another's progress. It's all centralized, so you go to a Skoda press conference and they're talking about exactly the same things as they talked about in the Volkswagen press conference. So it can be quite hard when they haven't got their own little sort of voice. Although Skoda's slightly different from the rest of the group. I do know most of the people who work in Skoda and they're so nice. It's a brilliant place to kind of hang out. Just the people in it, not about anything else. Sorry, I'm so far behind in these chats things. I'm getting there though. I'm catching up. Brian says, afternoon Bob, nice to catch you live. Nice to see the electrics dominating again as everyone resists them. It's the dominant subject. I enjoyed your Frankfurt footage and a Model X test as keeper lit. Thanks very much. It's a dominant topic. It's not the dominant sale. That's the thing at the moment, is when you look at the sales and you look at the chat about it, it's off in the stratosphere. The sales of it is down in the gutter at the moment. It's not much of a sale. There's a lot of interest. A lot of people with pre-orders that are being cancelled are not sure. It's very unsure in the market. A lot of stuff going on. We've got Brexit and we've got a budget coming, both at the same time. Funny enough, the budget and the Brexit thing is going to happen around the same time. By the way, I'm giving a talk, if you're interested, in the Ideal Home Show this coming... I forget when it's on. But the Ideal Home Show this year, look it up. We're having an electric car segment in it, and I'm giving a talk at it. If you're interested in coming along, I'll be there. 20-minute talk on all things electric from a journalistic perspective, from someone who's not sponsored to be there and not trying to sell you anything. I don't care whether you buy an electric car or not. It's entirely up to you. All I can do is give you the best advice. So the talk I give will probably be against everybody else is going to give a talk who's there. But anyway, I'm the only one not selling something while I'm there. But if you want to come along, it'll be at the electric car segment of the Ideal Home Show. And cheers to the Ideal Home Show for asking me to do. Over the 4 days, we're doing the talk every day. Weird. The things I get asked to do since I've done this, but it's very strange to see where I started with nothing, 0 subscribers, to being someone who talks the Ideal Home Show and hosts the Irish Car of the Year Award. It's really weird. Paul O'Connor. Okay, you reckon the Model X is rubbish at Irish country roads, roundabouts, too noisy, but it's great. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's brilliant at roundabouts if you drive. If you buy a Model X because of autopilot, you might as well have just gotten a taxi, because that's essentially what you just did. Get an Uber if you want to just buy a car so it can drive you around the place. If you drive a Model X, it's fine. On the country roads, the suspension is second to none. I would go so far as to say the suspension in a Model X is better than the suspension in a Mercedes. It's able to cope with the bumps and stuff much better on the roads. Speed bumps don't exist in a Model X. You just drive over them. Nothing happens inside the car, and just over it. Roundabouts are fine. It's flat. It's true. It's very sporty. It's very fast. It's phenomenally quick. Honestly, you'll be gone through the hedge, out the other side, across the field, and back onto the road again. And then you go, did I crash? It happens that quick. But from the autopilot perspective, autopilot can't deal with roads that have no white lines and no lines on the side of the road, little country lanes and things. It's not able to deal with any of that. It's designed for motorway, in the American parlance, highways and freeways. It's designed for those kind of terrain and not for the little tiny back roads of Ireland. So autopilot's going to get there eventually, but right now it's not all the way there. It's definitely not autopilot. Click a button and it just drives you on. It doesn't, because it's always asked you to put your hands back on the wheel anyway. Trevor. The problem I see with Ireland changing to electric is the housing infrastructure. High density housing doesn't suit charging an EV, as gardens and garages are non-existent. But that's just another little thing to get into perspective. You can, there's always a way of having, like, most apartments used to come with car parks, right? So if there's an underground car park in a city for cars that belong to people in the apartments, you just put in charge points on those. It's very easy. Electricity is already there. So you do have a problem with being able to plug in your car outside and then connect it to your ESB account. That might be an issue. But if you have a group scheme, a simple group scheme where you're all plugged into different chargers things, and the group scheme pays for that charging, there's always a way out. I'm not saying it's the best way out, but there's always a way out of sort of things. Huge amount of you watching today, but it'd be great if you could subscribe, with number one. Number two, you could click the like button, and you could also support the channel. The channel doesn't run on its own. You can get support. I can get support from any part there, including what just happened there from Alan Montgomery, who submitted some beautiful, lovely support over on PayPal. The links are down below for PayPal, Patreon, which you can go on, new patrons today, which is brilliant. Thank you very much. The channel doesn't exist without your support, so it's brilliant to have you here. I don't get support from any of the car companies. No car companies, no company, none of the reviews I have done on this channel have ever been paid for by any company, although I do get some free bits. So I mean, I got things sent to me by Chinese companies for review, and I still have them, but I still rubbish half the stuff they send me anyway. God, Chinese people, stop sending me things. Really annoying now at this stage. Hellhound, what a name. You should start a channel that has, face of a hellhound. Anyway, do you think that'll come a time when Tesla will be forced to allow other makes to charge at their superchargers? Don't need to be forced. I think they'll just open them. The ones in Balacolla have CCS and the other Tesla charger. I don't know what you call the other Tesla charger, but the other Tesla charger is there as well. So both plugs are already there. I think they'll just allow it anyway. Right now, you see, you don't need a card to open a Tesla charger. So you just pull up in your Tesla, you take out your charger, you plug it in, the car communicates with the charger and the flow starts. That's basically it. There's no card to open them up with. And so it would change, they'd have to change their infrastructure. So who pays for that? I mean, Tesla have invested all of the money to put their superchargers out there. And so they need to get something back out of it if they're going to open it up for everybody. And then what happens to the Tesla users? They bought a Tesla because they can have their own supercharger network, so they can cross the whole of Europe using the superchargers. And now they have to wait in a queue behind someone in an Audi, So that happens too. So there's a lot of stuff. I don't know. They won't be forced because it's a private company. They can't be forced. But they have built in all of the primo locations, which is very good for them. Calanut says, some rumours are saying that 2019 will be the last year for the IAA. Me too, I said that too. So many brands were not present. Climate debate. do not present a bright future for the motor show. What is your opinion? There will not be motor shows in the future. I guarantee the motor show industry is dying a death. There's 3 good reasons for why I say that. One is, I didn't have to. I could have sat at home and watched the live stream of whatever press conference I liked. Live. Just live, like the people standing right there. So the only reason for a journalist to go is to get in and out of the cars, or to have a meeting with somebody, to arrange an interview with somebody, or to meet and greet, or have a little network time, or whatever it is, to get together with other journalists. So there's a couple of good reasons, but that happens anyway. 2, it's irrelevant what car companies show at the thing. If they don't want to show, they've got nothing to show. Like if Volvo don't want to go, then Volvo don't go. That's it. Renault or Nissan or Honda or whoever it is don't fancy turning up. That's fine. Show goes ahead anyway. And generally, Frankfurt is very heavily based towards the German brands. Paris Motor Show is very heavily based towards the French brands. Detroit is American show, so they all have their own little effort to go with it. But because IAA is only every 2 years, and over the next couple of years, budgets will fall as car companies try and find money for stuff. The things that get cut are launches, like Volvo did. They got rid of international launches entirely. They got rid of going to car shows entirely. They've rationalised. And they're in trouble too. Don't make no mistake. Volvo's in just as much trouble as everybody else, because they don't have a proper electric car lineup brand that they can kind of force forward and go, we're all electric and so cool. So there's an awful lot of stuff going on in the background that's going to kill motor shows. It will also kill our enjoyment of why a motor show exists in the first place. Still, a lot of sales happen at motor shows. A lot of people who buy very expensive Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all these exotics, they do go to motor shows and start poking about. I've seen them there, they're poking around these new cars, and they buy them based on what's there. There's a lot of sales happen at motor shows, but not enough to keep a motor show alive on its own. In my opinion, electric mobility in the cities will solve only the pollution problem. Traffic congestion and parking problems will remain. The trick is to get more people to live in the city centre. That's the real key. The reason people drive a car in is because, I'm just going to take Dublin, right? It could be Paris, it could be wherever, any European city. Nobody can afford to live in that city. So what happens is they buy a house in Stepaside. Right now, if you're not from Dublin, Stepaside is in the city, but it's not in the city. It's out beyond the M50 range, right? And they buy a house out there because that's the place they want to live, and they feel like that would give them a good lifestyle out there, but yet they want to go into town. They work in the city centre. So they commute. But the only way to commute from Stepaside inwards is to drive a car. You're not going to take a bus in. It's because there's no good, decent bus lane. The bus is no faster than a car. And the Lewis is miles away from where you live. So the problem of what we used to do in commerce, anyone who's as old as me will remember going commerce classes in secondary school. What happened was, if you wanted to build a factory to make something, what you did was you looked for a centre of population and you built a factory there. Or you build a factory and then you build houses around the factory so people will buy a house nearby. That's how my mother and father ended up in Station Road in Kildare Town. They were built to house the managers of the wallpaper factory in the town. So you built the houses to attract the right employees. Right now, that's not happening. Right now, Google goes, I'm going to build a factory. I'm going to build a factory, essentially what Google is in Dublin. And they build the premises in Dublin and going to take over this premise and make it that 1,500 people work there. And that's great. Woohoo! None of them live anywhere near Google headquarters. You can pay them all you want, but if you want to spend all your time in traffic or standing on a Lewis crushed in like a sardine, it's not good for the mental health. It's not good, and it's not good for physical stuff. So the only way to solve is to start being smart about how we build cities and how we interact, how cities work. We're trying to get medieval cities up to the standard of 2019. Anywho, Annie McAfee, if you buy a car brand new in the UK or the EU, state you cannot pay VAT or local equivalent if it's not for immediate personal export. You get a limited time, 7 days I think, to register and pay at home. There you go. Cross as another thing in the news has been Renault launched their KZE car in China, an electric Renault K with 200 kilometers real world range, new EV for $8,000. Yeah, $8,000. $8,000 for a Renault in China. Right. Renault devaluing the market. I love it. I've done that 3 times around the EU. It's now for 5 years. That's Andy McAfee answering more questions there. Organ Truster says there are 2.5 million cars sold in the UK each year and fewer than 300 Tesla superchargers, all of which have proprietary connectors. The answer is something much bigger and open standards. Where's the profit in open standards? I'm sorry, I know you're right. You're actually right. Open network standards is the way to go, like CCS or some equivalent to that. But the problem is that these are private companies. These aren't public. These aren't out for your good. These aren't good. These aren't the health of you. These are bottom line margin people who need to make a profit for investors. And so if they're going to invest in something like the way we charge or how we do it or proprietary systems, then it has to have some offset to that to be profitable for the company. Because they're at the end of the year, the managing director has to go back to its board and go, guess what? We lost 7.2 billion euro this year because we invested in technology that no one else wants to use. So it's impossible for them to do that. So while you're right, big open standards is the way to get this proliferating out there very quickly. At the same time, it's down to the investment level. It's down to how much money can be made back from it and how much money they have to put in the first place to get there. Brian Jorgensen says we need to go EV nuts. EV nuts, yeah, baby. I like the idea. I like your thinking. EV nuts is probably. You know what? Wouldn't that make a good name for a magazine? Remember, Nuts used to have a lot of women in bikinis on the front of it. Imagine called EV Nuts. Get a little bikini on the front of a Honda E. I like it. Tesla superchargers now have European standard CCS connectors, as does the Model 3. So they're changing over as well. And in my Model X, which has the standard Tesla charger on it, it has a converter to convert CCS to the Tesla thing. So you just put the converter on over the CCS charger and plug in as normal. Superchargers are still quicker, so superchargers still do over 100 kilowatts, I think. They do a lot. It comes up on the screen. It's very fast. Have you tried any Indian car view? I like Tata. It's cheap and working well. They don't sell here. I'd love to. I would literally love to go all over the world and test weird ass cars that don't sell in other countries. But because I live on a little island on the west coast of Europe, I don't tend to get a lot of invites to go to India to test their cars. No, it wouldn't go down well in America. But I would like to do it. Yes. Bob's back on meat. Bring on a winter Sunday service barbecue meetup. That's what we have to do next. That's a good idea, actually, Andy. You know that? Have a barbecue meetup. Have a barbecue in the middle of a cold, grey, wet, miserable Sunday afternoon and just stick on a big fat barbecue and have steaks. What city did he say? I don't know what say. Dublin? Was it talking about Dublin? Could be anything. Don't know. That was from 236. Sorry, 3:36, not 2:36. Still about a half an hour behind you, but I'll stick it out till I get to the end, so stick with me. Still have 126 people watching, so it's insane numbers today to keep you all here. Watch time on the channel has gone through the roof because of Sunday service and because of some of the longer videos with us as well. Kitty Friends says, hi Bob, Aid here. Aid, right, okay. My 56 plate, don't know what that means. 1.6 petrol Astra has reached 120,000 miles. Oh my god. Realistically, if regularly serviced, how long do you think you're running for? If you regularly look after that car, it should have no problem going around the clock for you. And I do mean it, but it depends. You'll get an ever-decreasing return on investment. So what will happen is, over time, as cars get old, rubber bits depreciate. They get worse. They start to disintegrate and fall off the car. So you find things like bushings start to go on the car. Blocks and things underneath, little bits, engine blocks and stuff. Anything that's made of rubber starts to perish. Only because it's been exposed to the sun consistently, exposed to rain, dirt, road dirt, salt, all that stuff during winter. So over time, you have to invest a little bit more money to keep the car on the road a bit more. So that's what happens after a while. But you should have no problem as engines goes. Engines, if it's serviced properly and correctly every time, learn to do it yourself, it'll be cheaper. You should have no problem keeping that going, Aid, for the rest of eternity. I've seen a lot of those particularly petrol cars, do 800, 900,000 miles easily. Even the Opel stuff, and I know it's probably Vauxhall, but Opel or Vauxhall make very reliable petrol engines from years ago, and they should have no problem doing this. Brian Cullen, Kitty, S6 plate means nothing to an Irish person. You're right. What year is a 56 plate? I wouldn't have a clue either. I don't know. These things make no sense. Start 2006, the end of March 2007. Aha, right, okay. Yeah, there's no problem. My car's 13 years old, 2006, and has 140,000 kilometers on it. Could be 120,000 kilometers on it, something like that. It doesn't do much mileage, but it's able to keep on going. Every day it starts without any bother. Derek Fenlon, hi Bob. What do you think will happen to the classic car scene? I'm thinking of selling my 1971 Triumph GT6. Also managed to cancel my order for the Kona Electric and got a deposit back. I'm happy now. Good man, Derek. See, I told you, don't be buying Konas. Anyway, nothing will happen to classic cars. Classic cars will continue to rise in price. And I'll tell you what's going to happen next, though. The government snuck in something a while back. Cars after 1980, is it 1980? Have to continue with their NCTs. 30 years old doesn't exempt them anymore. And that was wrong. I don't know how that got snuck in. I didn't notice it. But I didn't notice it. Not my fault, but I didn't notice it. So anything that's pre-1980 doesn't have to have an NCT in his old tax system. They'll always be worth money. Particularly Triumph GT6, beautiful car, fantastic looking thing. If it's in good condition, you have great. Brian Cullen, have to say, Bob, the staff in local Lidls and Aldi's are very friendly, but they certainly are worked very hard. That's my point. I don't mean that they're particularly unfriendly. You'll always find unfriendly people if you look for them. But generally speaking, I find that they're so heavily worked that they don't have time to help you. And sometimes conversations break out entirely in Polish around you. I'm not too sure I like that either. And not a race thing. It's just sometimes you wonder what you're talking about and you're trying to figure it out for yourself. And it can be, communications can be difficult. But they are worked very, very hard and treated really poorly, as far as I can see, by Aldi in general. And Aldi sneak away with millions in profit quite regularly. Lidl seem to be treated a little bit better, as far as I can see. Fantastic doco on Fukushima I seen, where they literally changed the soil to lessen the damage and some people moved back in. Very high reading, still not surprised. Derek Fenlon gave us a super chat there. Thank you very much, Derek Fenlon. You're very kind. I didn't notice that. It didn't pop up on the screen for me. I'm sorry, I missed it. Adrian Mulligan says, hi Bob, looking to buy a second hand 2010 plus with $6,000. Any recommendations? Ford Mondeo, if you're looking for diesel, petrol even, Ford Mondeo is certainly in there. They're valued quite heavily. If you're looking for something else around that, Ford Focus 2010 was a good car. Don't buy the saloon one, buy the hatchback. Just check the rubber seals around the boot are not leaking. That does happen to the older ones, 9 years old. Anything Toyota from that range is going to be an indestructible thing. They do very well, even when they're treated badly. Toyotas tend to last quite a long time, usually because there's no real amount of equipment in them. But some of the things are actually they just last a long time. Tons of scope in that. $6,000's not going to go very far, is your problem. You're going to have to buy something with quite high mileage. So make sure you do your checks and tests, and the oil is okay. There's no mayonnaise in it, no nothing crazy in it. You should be alright. Organ thruster. Some EU Tesla stalls have CCS. The one here in Ballacalla has. The supercharger is not open standards and predates CCS, so Tesla has spent money on updating them. Good luck with that. My bet remains on Ionity deeper pockets. They'd want to have deeper pockets because Ionity spent an awful lot of money on getting the stuff in. Andy McPhee is talking about how to work out the English things. I don't understand that. 56 plate, 42 disc, 23. I don't understand either. Brian Cullen, Aid Kitty, it can possibly go another few years as well looked after, but if it's the timing belt is done and other biggish things, that age can always cause a shock. That's true. Lots of conversation between each other. Alan Montgomery, Bob, your thoughts on which is better, buy VW ID3 First Edition versus Tesla Model 3? Pros equals supercharging network, cons no dealership or service centres here in Northern Ireland. I would be fairly certain neither car will need a dealership. Tesla has always sold their cars based on the fact there's no dealerships in the country. They closed down a lot of dealerships across the world. We still have one here, but it does have a service centre and a clean area. The service car is a Ford Transit. I've seen it with Tesla downside of it. But besides that, Volkswagen have always sold their cars based on the service network. Just bear that one in mind. I would suggest that you're 6 in one, half a dozen the other. The Tesla experience is very good. I've yet to experience the Volkswagen experience of electric, other than the the e-Golf. So until we've tested the cars on the road, until we've seen what they're capable of, what kind of tech is in them, what the software allows you to do and not do, we'll have to reserve judgment which one I'd buy. Right now, we know the Model 3. Even though I haven't driven it, I've seen enough about it and enough reviews of it to see it's going to be a kind of a winner. But it's very hard to get them. I can't go anywhere in that Tesla without being surrounded by kids. I've seen children as young as 5 and 6 years old point at the car and go, Tesla. And they know exactly what they're talking about. Clever marketing people. Very clever marketing people. Brian Cullen answered that question as well. Tesla are coming soon to notice a Belfast service centre. When will it be up in the air? When will there be a person in your local VW dealership able to work on ID3 is another question. I'd say that training's already going on, Andy. I know Renault ran into trouble recently when they had no one to service their electric cars in Ireland. And I know that came up a couple of times because there's no one trained here in Ireland to service anything electric. Cross says, I don't understand what kind of business model will exist for traditional dealerships. There's just no money in EVs for them. My dealership won't be seeing my 151 i3 again for service until 2021, the third service, which you still won't have to pay for. You're right, I don't see a good future for any dealership at the moment. Either selling cars. Look what Volkswagen have copied Tesla, and I told you all this was coming. If no one was listening a few months back, I told you all that was going to happen. That Tesla has shone a light on how to sell a car without a dealership. They've been doing it since they started. They set up a website, you pay your little deposit. When your deposit comes through, the car goes into manufacturing. You can cancel your deposit all the way up to the point of manufacture, and then the car is yours. You pay the rest on your PCP, finance, whatever it is. All you got to do is open the bank. Now, Volkswagen are in the primo position to do exactly the same thing. They've done it with the i3. They've opened pre-orders online before a dealership gets a sniff of it. And it's starting to sell. It's starting to move. People are here, even in our comments, are talking about already putting a deposit on it. Now, Volkswagen have another ace in their hole, which is they've got a bank. Their own bank can service their PCP needs directly online. So you go onto the VW ID3 website, you click on you want what you want, you pay your 750, 800, 900 deposit, whatever it is, and you finance the rest through the PCP bank of Volkswagen. And that makes life very straightforward. And it completely cuts the dealership out of the network. No need to do that. Dealership will do nothing but deliver the car to you. That's all. That's it. So the future of dealerships is not bright and hasn't been bright for a few years. It must be a good... it's got to be 3-4 years ago I was talking about this on the Sunday service right here since it starts. It's definitely happening. Run. If you're in a dealership right now, start retraining something else. Andy says, I can see them going the similar Dacia, Tesla route, aiming for online orders and delivery, less actual dealers and traditional scale sites. Yep. Middleman entirely cut out. Yep. 100%. Renault not so long ago explored the idea of selling cars on Amazon in France only. Not sure if that went ahead. I think it might have. I think you can actually order Renaults or Dacias or something off Amazon. So they're at it as well. They're all trying to find ways of cutting corners. One of the big corners is traditional dealerships. Andy says, good in some way, but dealers will need to buy their cheap suits somehow and become the most expensive annual multi-point check ever. The thing is, the second-hand market is where it lives. You know, that's why you see in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland right now, see a lot of this WeBuyAnyCar.com type guys appearing on the scene. There's some ads on the radio about buying in cars. We'll buy any cars, come get our used cars, all certified. You see a lot of that starting to happen. They've spotted the point already starting to happen. With EV cars becoming more tech gadgetry top trumps like smartphones. Oh, let's skip forward there, me. I missed that and I'm not skipping forward. I don't know where it went to. Still haven't sorted out that chat there. Thanks very much. YouTube, you are sorting it out, but you haven't sorted it out fast enough. Like, it still jumps forward all of a sudden. Less actual dealer traditional scale size. Yep, the middleman will be entirely cut out. Good in some ways, and dealers need to buy cheap. So yeah, I got that. Smartphones, hands down. Look, when you're buying something online, when I'm buying something online, first thing I do is look online. I don't look in the shop. I don't go to the shop and go, I like that. And then I go online and look at it. I look online and see the prices and then I go to the shop. If I'm a nice person like me, I'll go to the shop and maybe buy it there. unlikely these days. Lots of people are growing up right now buying nothing but online. One of my neighbours up the road there never goes near a Tesco, but buys all the time in Tesco because a Tesco fan turns up beside their house the whole time. They don't own a car, they don't own a bike, they don't own anything. They walk, they get the train, they work in Dublin, to come home, Tesco delivers their stuff. That's it. No interactions with human beings at all. So bear that in mind, that these people already exist. Just because you're not one of them doesn't mean it doesn't happen all around you. Richard Cullen says, love the show, mate. Are you still a fan of BMW 640D? Cheers, kid. Absolutely 100%. If you're looking for a car that will be a future classic, 100% future classic, is a BMW 640 diesel. I have at least 3 people that I know personally who have asked me to find them 640 diesels that they can have and drive every day. So beautiful, beautiful car. Still going to be worth its weight in gold in 20 years' time. Ocean Froggy. Bob, any ideas what 4x4 all-wheel drive EVs might hit the market in the next 18 months, considering the snow last year? Cheers, great show as ever. Unless you have a reason to have a 4x4, I wouldn't bother with them. They're just an awful expense and they eat fuel. And unless it's a Tesla, which is an all-wheel drive, an electric car is going to drive 2 more wheels. So almost every electric car at the market at the moment is front-wheel drive. Some are rear-wheel drive. The ID3 is going to have the motor at the back. The Teslas are 4-wheel drive. I think all of them are 4-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. But if you're looking for electric cars at the moment, the only one that's actually able to go off-road will be the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. And that's a PHEV, not electric. Snow, you're not going to have that problem. If you learn to drive in snow, take the winter course. Go to Rally School and take their winter driving course. You learn to drive in snow. You'll never need a 4x4 again, unless you're going to climb into a field or into a forest or something. Brian Jorgensen. I have a gasoline car and we'll have to go for service for oil and filter, but what does EV have to go for service for? Nothing. The only service an EV gets is on the bits that are the same as normal cars. So they put a computer on it, they check things, error messages, bulbs, suspension parts, brake pads, brake discs. That's more or less it. After that, there's not a whole lot more can go wrong. Cross says ID3 is getting off-wheel drive in 2021, but any EV handles snow and ice better than combustion because of the control you have over the torque and the way the torque applies without the kick of combustion cylinders. That's true. And you have little kind of skinnier tyres often, which behave better in the snow. Adrian Mulligan says, cheers. Cliff says, I miss dealerships when they go, to be honest. So will I. You have to go and get free coffee all over the place. But yes, I will miss dealerships when I go. I know a lot of lovely, lovely people working in dealerships all over this country and many other countries who watch these videos and send me messages and send me emails and things, asking me questions about stuff that they're going to be selling in a few months' time. So I appreciate what they're doing, but you can see how the car industry behind the scenes is moving and pushing and twisting and turning, trying to find the profit back in the way it was. No longer are they making cars for the love of cars, and the majority of people who work in these huge places like Volkswagen are not car people. They're actually business people. They're accountants. They're from behind. They're trying to make money all the time. Car companies used to be set up like the little industry ones in the UK, used to be set up by people who just honestly love cars and want to make the best car that they possibly can for the consumer out there. Now it's the best profit they can possibly make from the consumer out there, and that's the subtle change in businesses that's changing the relationship between dealerships and customers and between dealerships and the manufacturers in the countries. Anyway, we have spent over 2 hours together this horrible Sunday, but it's a nice, lovely day. And it seems to be that we've had the biggest response ever on the Sunday service so far. It's been absolutely fascinating to be here today. And the variety of questions today has been absolutely gigantic as well. And I've loved every minute of it. Hopefully, you have hit that subscribe button at some point of today. And if you haven't and you're already subscribed, thank you very much for being a subscriber and a supporter of the channel. If you donated at any point of today, thank you very much. I am humbled by your generosity, and it always goes into equipment in case in hotels or whatever I need to get to, wherever I'm going to, will always be funded by you guys. It's you guys and your money and your abilities that keep this channel moving forward every single Sunday and every single week of the year. And I hope it continues with that kind of way. If you enjoy it, thumbs up. If you love it, hit the subscribe button. Whatever you do for the next few weeks, enjoy yourself. But join me again here next Sunday at 2 p.m. Irish time for the Sunday service, as I do every single week. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, I will see you on the far side.